All right, our recording is in progress. And so let me share my screen. All right, everybody see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, cool. I am going to make this, there we go. Let's put it down there. All right, so we're going to start. Now, we're going to start from the beginning again because I want to do some review. As you can see, I have the actual assignment open up at the beginning, and I'm about to ask y'all a series of questions, and I want to make sure that you're understanding what you've learned so far. We've introduced loops to you last on Monday, and then we introduced functions to you. I don't know if anybody had a chance to go over the functions chapter yet, but as you can tell, that there's a lot to functions, and everything that you learned up until this point, you're going to have to apply it to functions. And so this is why we're going to recap this and make sure everybody get a good understanding. Now, a lot of this, I'm going to be what we're going to call this pair programming. A lot of this is I'm going to be the driver, and some of you are going to be the navigator. I'm going to ask you questions to say, okay, to make sure I can gauge everyone's understanding, and you're going to tell me what to do. If I see that you're struggling with it, I'm going to hop in and then I explain it to you, especially if someone here is not understanding the concept. Let me explain it to you so that you can get an understanding. Is that fair? All right, everybody. So we're going to get into this. So we're using assignment 1, and we're going to use assignment 1 to review everything that you've learned from from chapter 4 to chapter, really a little bit of chapter 10. You haven't gotten deep into chapter 10, but you're going to have to understand it to finish up this assignment. So, and that's a good thing that you got extra week to really get into chapter 10. So let us begin. So we got assignment 1, the candidate testing. One of the things that I definitely want y'all to pay attention to the verbiage, because you're going to be able to find the clues you need to solve the problem. And then on top of that, learn how to follow instructions. That's important, because when you get on a team and you're working in an agile and a scrum environment, you have to understand the stories. They're going to write these stories, that the POs are going to write these stories, and they're going to give you the direction or descriptions, and they call it the AC, the acceptance criteria, what they will accept for that. And you got to know how to follow the acceptance criteria. So now we're going to teach you now early on in your process of how to pay attention to what you're reading and to be able to follow the instructions and do what they ask you to do. That takes time. That's going to take practice to really understand that. So in the beginning, I know it's going to be frustrating because you may not be clear on what we're asking you. But if you just keep on playing with it and struggling with it and failing at it, eventually it'll start clicking in your head. All right, so it asks, okay, staff, we received many applications for our astronaut training program, and we need to do an initial evaluation of the candidates. Management needs you to create a quick quiz to help select the best candidates. This is like a description inside of your story. We're giving you a description. And then it's telling us here, the requirements below are what your end assignment will look like. This assignment is broken down so you can complete a small piece as you go. You need to move sequentially. Now, do me a favor, everybody mute until you have a question. So sequentially, you remember that word right here? You remember sequentially? Yeah. All right, I need everyone to mute because I hear some background noise.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yep, I do. All right. So sequentially, we needed to go into order. Okay. and it's going to go sequentially. And let me explain to you what that means. You're going to come. We're going to talk about later on about synchronous and asynchronous. And when you think about asynchronous and you think about synchronous is a sequence. It goes like this: A, B, C, and D. That's how a synchronous works. That means that before I can get to B, I have to first say A. That means A is blocking B. B cannot be called until I say A. So I'll say A, B, C. So that's a sequence. That's going in a synchronous order. But asynchronous says that I can go from A to C. I can jump. I don't have to wait. B doesn't have to block C. I can go straight to C. A doesn't have to block C. Asynchronous means I can jump where I need to go in order for me to get the data that I'm looking for. So right now we're teaching you a sequence. We're teaching you how to do things sequential. We know that over here, you can see over here inside of my replit, it's going sequentially. We're going one, we have these are the line numbers for your file, and they're in order. And so understand that we're going to start at point A, well, point one, part one, and then we're going to move through part two and part three. Now, we asked you to read the whole assignment page before starting. Why did we ask you to do that? Because on your job, your POs is going to send you stories to review. You have to read that whole story. You need to know the description, and you got to know what they're asking you to do. So if you have questions, you can ask questions and get clarity. You want to find out, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? Okay, then by asking questions, you may find out that there's something that's blocking you, that's keeping you from moving forward. But if you don't look at the question and you don't read the whole story, then you take on the story and you don't know the complexity. You have all this hidden complexity and you get into it, and then you underestimate, because you got to estimate the stories. Then you underestimate the story, and then when you get into it, you realize that, oh wow, this has a lot of hidden complexity, because I didn't see that at first. I didn't see that requirement. I didn't see how they wanted me to do that. I didn't read the whole description. It's your responsibility as a developer to be prepared. It's your responsibility to understand what you're doing, because time is money. So here, the requirements are like your acceptance criteria, your ACs. It says, ask the candidate, the user, to enter their name. Use a loop to ask 5 questions, one at a time, to the candidate. Collect the candidate's answer. Check those answers for accuracy, case, and sensitivity equality check. Remember these because this is going to apply to all 3 parts. Calculate the candidate's overall percentage. Determine if the candidate did well enough to enter our program. They need a passing score of 80% or higher. Notice the compound operator right there. And this is a conditional, or you're going to use that in the conditional somehow. Display the results. That could be a variable right there. You might have to use that. So it's important that you understand what the acceptance here. Part 1, part 2, part 3 are like your task. We call them tasks on your when you get your stories, and you got to break your story down into tasks. We're breaking this story. This is our story. Our story is to create a candidate testing, and we have 3 tasks: part 1, part 2, part 3. And you move your card or your story into the sprint or into progress. It starts off to do, then you move it into progress when you're starting on that task. So now it says, when starting any project, it's best to approach it as a series of smaller testable parts. The goal is to get simple parts working first and then expand the code in a systematic way. The following is not the only way to complete this assignment. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. The following is not the only way to complete this assignment, but it provides a framework for thinking through the project. So I've already got the record set up, and we're going to start at the first one, candidate name. We're going to go, since most of you have already done this, I just want to review this part so I can make sure you're understanding what we're asking you to do. Okay, so a lot of you watched the video last time. Who can explain line 1 to me? Yeah, you can go ahead and mute if you...
That is if you want to ask the user a question and get his input, we use const input equal to require readline sync.
Correct. But now, break down each part of it. Let me know, what does this const mean?
So the const means that the answer can't change. Like the answer that the user gives doesn't change, because that's what the const input means.
Well, is it the answer that the person...
Or the variable. It's the variable.
There we go.
Like you can't adjust the variable.
Right, you can't reassign it. That variable cannot be reassigned. And if it is reassigned, and you try to reassign it, you're going to get an error, right?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, now what is this called right here?
Assignment operator.
There we go. I want you to...
It's not the equality sign. It's not that.
It's not an equal sign here. And it's important to know that, because another thing I need for you to understand, remember, who remembers or know, or if you looked at it, what are the 7 primitive data types?
Number, character, number, string, boolean,
Array.
Well, that's an object, but I'm on primitive data type. So the primitive data types, there's 7 of them.
and the logical, and then, no.
I think I only know 3, right?
I want y'all to learn those. I'm going to break them down to you. Primitive data type, the 7 are strings, numbers, booleans, symbols. You was going in the right direction when you say character, but symbols, null, undefined, and big int. They just added big int maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. But big int, there are 7 primitive data types.
What's the last one you said? It sounds like you said big it.
Int, I-N-T.
Oh, big int.
Yeah, that's a number. Because an integer is short for integer.
All right.
B-I-G is one word, and then int.
Okay.
I is in insurance, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom. And that is a number. Anything with int, you should be thinking digits. So those are numbers or number values. So what is a primitive data type? Anybody know?
Immutable.
There you go. Who said that? Who said immutable?
Rachel.
There we go. Immutable. And what does that mean?
It can be changed.
All right. Now let me ask you this. If string is a primitive data type, it's immutable, it can't be changed, and it's not an object because primitive data types are not objects. Now, how can a string become an object?
Yeah, because you can reassign it to a variable, a different variable, and then we can manipulate that variable.
Okay, so you're on the right track. You don't have to reassign it. You can just assign it, right? You can initialize it.
Yeah,
right?
initialize it. Yeah.
But tell me, how come you can't change a string? Why come it's immutable then?
I think Kyle said that it has to do with the basis of the whole language itself, right? Like in how JavaScript works in our last studio. He was saying you'd have to change the whole reference for it or something like that. I don't quite understand.
Well, once it's set, basically. Once a number is set, it's set. Once it's set, it's set. So technically, I don't have to pass a string or store a string in a variable. I can just console log it to the screen, right? I can just console log a string to the log it to the screen to the console, right? I don't have to store it in a variable, but I can't change it. I have to put another string. So once it's set, it's set. It can't change. So if I put my name, Terrence, in those quotes inside of console.log, it's Terrence. I can't add my middle or my last name to it. I will have to create another string in order to do that. Now, what makes, and I'm using string as an example because strings are a collection. It's a collection of characters. The reason why it becomes an object, and you said it correctly, I'm pronouncing it right now, Jaron, right? I said it right, Jaron. Jaron said it right. You have to initialize it to a variable. So that means that variable name, whatever the name is called, a variable is a container. It's an identifier. In order for a string to become an object, it needs that variable to point to it. And then it becomes an object. So therefore, now this variable, when it's declared, it's a variable. Once it's declared and initialized, now you can use it as an object because everything in JavaScript is an object except for primitive data types. But in order for those primitive data types to become objects, they have to be stored in a variable. That makes sense? Cool. Next part. We got this require right here. Now I want you to think like the compiler. What is require? What kind of data type is it?
Is it a keyword?
Look at it for me. Look at it. What's the clue? What's the clue? Think like the compiler. What do you
export from some other file?
Yeah, but I want, what is it though? What is it? What kind
It's
of
a function.
We're close, very close. It's really a method. There
I thought it was a method, but
There it is. It is. But how do you know it's a method?
The brackets?
I don't see brackets.
I thought it was a method because of those parentheses that
There
something
you
has
go.
to go inside of it. Okay.
That's correct. It's parentheses I see, but I don't see no brackets.
Sorry.
we got to know the difference. I'm gonna ding you on saying it correctly because it's just gonna help you down the road. It's a method. Go ahead.
I thought methods and functions were the same thing.
Now, see, we haven't gotten to objects yet. When we get to objects, you're going to understand why methods and functions are similar. But a method is a part of an object. A function, although it is an object because you can store it in a variable, it uses an identifier. That's important to know because an identifier is what makes it an object. But a method is a part of an object, and we'll explain it when we get to objects. So we got two more chapters. I think that's chapter 12. So right now, it's very similar to a function. They look like functions, and they're verbs like functions, but they're methods. They're always assigned to an object. That makes sense? But I'll definitely explain that when we get to objects because it can be a little bit it's what you're learning now. And then these are building blocks. We're giving you the building blocks now. And then later on, we're going to really elaborate more on it. So we're just preparing your minds to receive this information later. So that's after a while, you'll be able to know the difference between methods and objects. All right. So we know that require is that method, and it's a verb. It's performing some type of action, right? What is the action that is performing? What is this right here? What is that called right there?
Read line sync.
Mm-hmm. And what is read line sync?
Means it's reading from some file.
It calls it from that base set of like files that you can use to like initialize things.
Yeah, it's kind of but the keyword I'm looking for.
Read each line.
What it does, it sets up like a prompt for you.
Oh.
But it's a module. You're going to learn how to create modules as we go forward. But it's a module that's inside Node modules. Node modules, remember when you set up your Replit, you had to click on Node.js?
Yes.
But Node.js has modules in it. And modules is remember I talked about abstraction? The 4 principles of OOP is abstraction, encapsulation, let me get them right. Encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. I'm just giving you a hint of this stuff so you can kind of get your mind familiar with those terms, because you're going to use those throughout your whole career. It's those 4 principles. And this is what I call abstraction. All you're concerned with is that it works. You can call it abstraction. You can call it encapsulation. They both apply here. But all you really care about is that it works. You don't know how it works up under the hood. All you care is that way, and you know that you have an idea what you want to do with it. But I don't need read line sync to prompt. I can write a different method myself to do that. We're just introducing this to you. And you're going to use this require, especially when you're setting up servers. When you have to set up your servers, when you start getting into frameworks that require you to use that function, it'll make sense once you get to that point in your career. Because you won't use it a lot, but when you start learning how to set up projects, you would definitely use it. So so far, just in this one line, we've covered a lot of stuff that you've already learned so far. We reviewed some of the stuff that you introduced yourself to. Here we got the keyword const, because const is a keyword. What are the other 2 keywords? We got const.
Require.
Let.
Let.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
Sorry.
No, I want you to be comfortable. Var. What do you say? Var. There you go, var. And do y'all know the difference between the 3?
Yes.
Tell me.
Const cannot.
Yes.
All right. What is var?
Variable.
Mm-hmm. And how now? Every once in a while, you're not going to use that keyword at all, really. You may use it a few times in your career, but that was the way it was set up before. And we used to use var for everything, but var, you got to be careful with var, because you can reassign a variable name from anywhere. Whether it's local scoped or if it's globally scoped, I can change it, and you don't want to do that, especially when you have a big application. You change it somewhere else, and you're using the exact same variable name somewhere else. There's going to be conflict, and it's going to be hard to find it. So why do we use let then? What is let called? Let is short for something. What is it short for? Lexical. Let is short for lexical, and we use let for really when we want to declare a variable locally. So because we talked about scopes, because I think we talked about it. We talked about it in the function section in chapter 10. I went over scope. I was talking about scope the whole time. I would kind of point out scope, but we kind of went a little bit more in depth on scope in the 10th chapter. Go ahead.
What does var do again? Because I'm not familiar with that.
var, because you don't use it a lot, you'll forget it's there because we rarely use it nowadays. But var is just like it's a keyword. And what it does is it initializes a variable, or where it declares the variable. We add the value to initialize it. And the problem with var is you know how we can reassign a variable, right? You can reassign it. You just leave the keyword out and reassign it. The problem with var, you can reassign it wherever it is. It doesn't matter what function it's under, because we use let, because we want let to keep it local to that function. But var, I can change that variable in another function. I can reassign it. And then when I'm trying to run it, there can be a clash right there. There could be a problem. So it's called hoisting. And we haven't got to hoisting yet. But hoisting is another terminology you're definitely going to have to learn. And I'm going to break it down to you. This is why I always say it's so important to watch the videos, because it's things that you're not thinking about that I'm going to point out and get you to understand and really evaluate and really take some time over it. But var is considered almost like global, although you don't have to put a keyword on your variable. You can leave the keyword off, but the thing with that is it's going to be hoisted to a global variable. That means anywhere in your program, it can have access to the variable, and you don't want that. In most cases, you don't want that. If you want it to be accessed, you'll make it a global variable. That means you want to be in control of how you initialize or declare and initialize your variables. Make sense? Everybody still with me?
Yes, yes.
All right, cool. So we just reviewed. This is stuff that's important. You're going to have to keep reviewing this stuff so that it can kind of become a part of your mental, so you can know instinctively, because down the road, you don't want to have to be wondering, what does that do again? You want to know the terminology so you can easily keep moving, because the more you know and understand it, and think about where you are right now from where you were when you started 2 weeks ago. Some of you have really progressed. Some of you may be struggling with certain things, but you are progressing. But if you just start learning these little small nuances and get them to understanding, memory and understanding, because it doesn't mean anything to just memorize it and you don't understand it. Memorize it first, then get an understanding of it, because that's what's going to encourage you and going to give you that confidence. So we went over that, and I know this is a long process, but I just want to take this time on these days like this to really take our time to go through it, because the class moves very quickly. And y'all before you know it, you're done with Kyle, and now you're hopping into in our groups. And it moves so fast, and sometimes you don't get an opportunity to really review. And so this is what these Saturdays are for. It's for us to go back and recap and keep reinforcing what you've already learned. Okay? All right, so here we go. Any questions? So it says, ask the candidate, we're on part A. Ask the candidate name. We're going to look to 1.1a. Here we are right here. We got the candidate name. Now, so what? I'm the driver. What is it saying? I want someone to read A. For matter of fact, I'm going to call on some names. And please, if you don't understand it, I understand, that's fine. But I'm going to call on so we all don't jump on at the same time. So what I'm going to do, I got to move some stuff around, because I'm only on one screen. I'm normally on multiple screens, but I want to be able to see as many people that's here with us. So bear with me a little bit. So the first person, I'm just going to go in the order first. All right, Jerron, you first. All right, read A for me.
Okay. As for the candidate's name, look for to-do 1.1a in the starter code. On the line below this to-do comment, define a variable called candidate name with an initial value of the empty string.
Okay, what does that mean?
That means we have to initialize candidate name to the empty quotes. So put the assignment operator.
So in this state right now, on line 6, what is that called? What is that state called? You've heard me talk about state. What is this right here? What is that called? You just read it.
Define.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, you got to know this, because sometimes when you get that undefined on a particular variable, that means you defined it, but you didn't initialize it. What we did, we declared it. I mean, I'm not defined, but declared. You declared it, but you didn't initialize it. So it's declared now. Now we just need to initialize it. And how do I write that syntax?
The assignment operator. Then the empty quotes.
Okay. Does it matter what kind of quotes I use?
No.
Huh?
No.
Okay. Tell me why.
Thought the double quotes and the single quotes were interchangeable.
Okay. And that's one of the rules of JavaScript. It doesn't matter. It won't ding you. But you're going to have to learn how to shift when we get over to Java, because it does make a difference when we get to Java. So in JavaScript, it doesn't make a difference. But Java, it does. All right, cool, good. You did a good job. All right, the next person I'm going to call on, I'm just looking at in the order on my screen, and that person is going to be Ann. You are up next. Let's do B for me. Read B for me.
Look for to-do 1.1b. Inside the function, ask for name. Write code asking the user to enter their name into the program and store the value as candidate name.
Cool. So what should I write here?
Hold on a second. Look up 1b. Inside the function, ask for name. Let candidate name equal input dot. Is that right?
I'm going to copy this because I don't want to misspell it. So I like for y'all to. So did I need to initialize it? Did I need to declare it?
So it's let candidate name equal.
Do I need to? Do I need to declare it? I do. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Let me declare it.
And I said equal. I'm sorry.
Okay, but I was going to get you.
And I actually refer to it as represent, or when I'm thinking it through in my head.
Yeah, it's a pointer.
So it's like let candidate represent input dot question parentheses. Oh, I've already got it written out, but
Okay. That's okay.
String, please enter your name. Old school rules, I always use a colon, and then a space, and then a closed parenthesis, or close quotes and a closed parentheses.
Okay, and what goes at the end of the parentheses?
Semicolon.
There we go. All right, so let's look at this again. All right, let me move this out the way so I can look and see. Did I delete some stuff or something? Oh, okay, this blocking. I hate when it does that. All right, so let's break this down. We have here, what is this called right now? Let's call what? Use
A variable?
Okay, it is a variable. I want you to have your confidence. Next, right here, what is this now? What is input?
Okay, I got this. Hold on.
That's
I
okay.
have an answer to that. I wrote it out on cards, like you said. Only my cards are a lot bigger. Okay. So can't find it right.
That's okay. We just talked about it earlier when I said up here. How do we make a value? And we make value, we assign to variables values. Everything that's on the left side of the assignment operator is a value. We assign it to a variable. Now that variable becomes what? What's inside of it becomes what? It becomes it starts with an O.
Oh, an object.
There we go. So now input is an object now. But how do I know it's an object? It's another identifier. Think like the compiler. I'm highlighting it right there for you. What is that thing in between question and input? And what I'm doing now, I guarantee you, when I'm talking to you, you're going to remember this stuff, especially when you feel like you put on a hot seat. You're really going to remember it. And I know. It's two notations we use.
I know what it does, I don't know what it's called.
It's a dot notation, because you have a dot notation and a bracket notation, but we call them access operators. Because it wants to, whatever is on the right side of that access operator, it wants to get access to what's on the left side, which is an object. This is why we call these methods. Think like the compiler. How do you know that question is a method? Look at it and tell me.
Because it's attached to an object?
That's one. But what else? Because there's two things you can attach to an object you can get access to on the side of that dot. It's either going to be, look at it, what is that question is? What is the question? We know it's a verb, and when it's a verb, it's a, look at these right here. What are those right here? Those parentheses.
Okay.
When you see parentheses, you should be thinking method.
Okay.
When you don't see parentheses, you should be thinking property. Methods have parentheses. Properties don't. But they both are assigned or they're connected to an object. So what this access operator is doing is connecting the two. Think of it as a parent and a child, and we break it down to inheritance. You're going to be doing a lot of method chaining in your career, and it's always going to be chained to the parent. This is also referred to as a parent. So you want to inherit what's ever inside that object. That's a way to remember. And so now we've asked the question, please enter your name. And one of the things you want to do, you always want to test a little bit at a time. So let's go ahead. So it worked. Please enter your name. So now I'm going to type my name in, and I spell my name 3 different ways, y'all. So you might be confused. The right, correct spelling of my name, but this is how it's spelled on my birth certificate. But on my social security card, it's spelled different. And what you may see me on launch code, they spelled it T-E-R-E-N-C. So there's 3 different 3 ways to spell my name. So if I hit enter, okay, how can I check this? All right, so the next person I'm going to ask is Rachel. You're up next. Rachel, how can I check that this is working properly?
With the console.log.
Okay. Tell me how to write that syntax.
Console.log.
Let me spell it right.
Oh, I lost my. Can you do a string that says correct answer?
I want to see if it's being stored.
Oh, no, not correct answer. If it's being stored. Oh, so console.log candidate name.
All right. So why would I do this? Why would I want to test it to make sure this is working properly?
So that you don't get down a lot farther into your code and have a problem way up at the top.
Correct, because it's not probably going to give me an error. So it could be a logic error, and I might not even know where the error is coming from. But at the same time, I just want to make sure what I'm doing is working, because what's one of the things we tell you how to do? Get the code to work and keep it working. So I want to do what? I'm using console.log to test, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's run it again. And so I'm going to spell it the other way. Spell my name the other way now. Now I'm going to hit enter. Is this going to store it? Yes or no? What's going to happen when I hit enter?
Well, it should type out your name.
Should print it out, right?
Yes.
There we go. Now, remember that we're sequential, right? We're going in sequential order. We create this variable up here called input, which becomes an object when we try to access stuff from it. The next thing we do is we declare and initialize the variable with an empty string. Then inside this function, ask for name. Because all of these, notice something. Can anybody tell me something here? I want to ask you, since do y'all understand scope? How many of y'all understand scope? Did y'all read chapter 10? How many people read chapter 10? Nobody read it yet?
Still working through it.
All right. So here's scope.
I did some.
You did some. What would I consider these variables right here? What scope would I consider them? Would I consider them globally or local?
Global.
Okay, and why?
Because they can be accessed wherever, all over the program, not just in a function or something.
Okay, so I can have access to how many functions do I have here? You know how many functions are here? Can you see? 1, 2, 3. All right, 4. We got 4. Okay, and then we have the expert. Please don't touch none of this stuff down here, y'all, because if you want your program not to work, don't touch none of this stuff. Only touch what you created. So we have 4 functions here, and all 4 of these functions can have access to these variables. This is why we put them outside the function and we call them global. So that's why Ask Candidate Name is global. Now let me ask you this question. If I remove let, what will happen? Will this still work?
Yeah, it will be reassigned. The candidate name will be...
Okay, but would I get an error or anything like that?
No.
Wouldn't? Okay, let's run it and see. There we go. This is why I was asking you, do I need the keyword? Because it's already been declared up here. So because this is global, I don't have to, but I can. You notice I didn't get an error when I try to assign it, right? When I tried to put it inside this function, I didn't get an error. But let's look at something. Let's see if we'll get an error if I try to change input, right? So let me change input then, just so, we like to test, right? So I'm going to have input, and I want to assign it a string. Just going to call it string. And do you think this is going to blow up on me?
Yes.
It is. Why?
Because we said input is a constant all the way in the first line.
Mm-hmm.
And you can reassign another value to a constant.
You are correct. So let's see what the error going to be. So now remember sequential. It hasn't got to that variable yet. So let me put my name in again. Hit enter. It blew up after I hit enter, right? So let's go back up here and look. It did print because it's sequential. Everything happened in order, one right after the other. When it got to that input variable, what did it do? It says type error, assignment to a constant variable. It gave you the warning right there. That makes sense? So you're understanding how the sequential is working, how it's important. how you set your code up in a certain order, it's called the DOM, the document object model. We call it the DOM, and the DOM works from top to bottom. We'll kind of discuss that a little bit more when we get over into HTML. All right, so it's called the DOM.
Did the let candidate name under the Asker candidate, did that work because it was local after having been global?
Well, it's already been declared. It's declared global. When it's declared globally, I don't have to put the let inside of this function. I can, but I don't have to.
That's what I was wondering about, because I thought you couldn't put let if it's already been declared, but if it, so it's okay if it is.
Well, yeah, let's do this.
Need to.
Let's do this. So you want to see this, right? So let me go down here. I'm inside the same function. I'm going to copy it because I don't want to misspell it. And then I want to assign it and reassign it to a word. So I'm just put that in there as an example. What do you think is going to happen when I hit run? And you're on the right path, I understand it, but I want you to see it. What do you think is going to happen when I hit run?
I'm wondering if it's not going to work because now it's local inside the function, or is it?
Yes, they're both local. Is it going to give me an error, or is it going to reassign my candidate name to Word?
I don't know, I thought reassign only happens when you don't have the let, but
correct.
Does it work either way?
Yeah, we want to see though, don't we? We want to see the difference. So let's run it so you can see what happens. Now, this is a syntax error. You know why it's a syntax error? A syntax error, when the syntax error is wrong, the program won't run. We had a runtime error when we tried to reassign that const variable input to a different value. That was a runtime error because it ran, and then when it hit that const in sequential order, then it blew up. But this is a syntax error. A syntax error is not going to run. It scans the code so fast to make sure all the syntax is correct. And if it's correct, then it runs. That's how the program runs. It first makes a pass. It runs through everything, makes sure all the syntax is working. When it's working, then it runs. That's how we didn't get an error when we tried to reassign that const. It went back and it ran, and it started with ask the question. And then when we asked it to hit enter, it went so fast that when it went to the next part, it blew up. But this blew up before it even ran. This is why we know that this is a compile time error. A syntax error is compile time. And what does it say? Syntax error, what's this word?
Been declared. The identifier's already been declared.
There we go. Now pay attention. This is why we're saying understand the terminology. The identifier is the same as a variable name. This is why we call variables containers and identifiers. Here, it used the word identifier. In another browser, it may be called something else, but you got to know what they mean, right? So this is why it has already been declared. So that means I can't reassign using the same keyword. But now if I go here and I get rid of that let, if I run it, will I get an error? Will it run?
It should run.
Why? Because what happens? Why would it run?
Because now you're just reassigning it and not redeclaring it.
There we go. There we go. So now it still works. And then you know what? I got that console.log right there. So let me get rid of the console.log and let me do this. I need to put the console.log in the right place. Because it makes a difference where you put the console.log, right? Yeah, remember in the for loops, I taught y'all how to really see your work with console.logs. So now when I run it, what's going to happen? Just like the compiler, you want to see, you shouldn't be able to see the output.
Now it's going to print the word word.
All right. Oh, it didn't. So something, what did I do wrong? What did I do? What's going on? How come it didn't? How come it didn't reassign word?
Because we have an input. We have to input the name. Or no?
But we try to reassign it, right? So it didn't reassign. There. So it didn't store it, right? It asked the question, but then when I go to store it, it didn't store because this input is still reading this input, but to go and store it, it just pulled back word.
Okay.
This is why it's so important to play around with this to see the different scenarios, because you're thinking it's going to work one way because you're seeing the rules and the principle for face value. But once you get into playing with the code, you'll start really understanding the rules and the principle when you see the different outputs. Okay, because in my mind too, until we play around with it to get an understanding, is that, okay, this should have reassigned it. But then I look closer at it, like you were saying, because it does have that input in it. It picked up the input. But when I hit enter, it didn't store my name into candidate because candidate already has something stored in it, which is word. That makes sense? It gets a little confusing sometimes, and I don't mean to confuse y'all if I did. All right, we made it to that part. So now the next person up on my list is Piero. Did I say your name right, Piero?
It's Piero, but yeah.
Piero. Now I said it wrong, and then check me out. I'm trying to solidify that did I say it right?
Yeah, you said it right, but it actually was like this.
Piero. All right. So let's go ahead. Read C for me. Can you see that? Because I moved your I'm gonna put this right here, so we just focus on C.
Yeah. Look for to do 1.1C. Underneath it, write a message to the console log greeting the user using the name they just provided.
All right. How would I do that?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it on my 1.1C.
Yep, 1.1C. That's where I'm at right now. Ask for candidate's name.
Yeah, so I would just write a console.log that then calls.
Now you got some experience now. You read some stuff. I don't have to do the concatenating thing. What can I do? I can use a template literal, right?
I'm not quite sure. Yes, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, you can. You can do it. So do it your way. Let's do it your way that you know how to do it.
I was just going to write, like hello, comma, space.
Okay.
And then outside the quotes, another space and then the plus sign. And then you would call the candidate name from what was inputted earlier.
All right, let me copy that because I will spell it wrong. I am a horrible speller. You would think I know how to spell this stuff, but I still struggle. All right.
And then, I think that should do it.
Okay.
It should just say hello and then their name.
Okay, cool. Well, let's run it. So I'm going to put my name in here. Oh, okay. Why didn't that work?
It did not work.
Why didn't my name print? Now this is where we got to do some.
Can we put it within the function of what, is above? Like,
Okay, let me see. Where? Right here?
yeah, under 1.1b.
Okay, what should I put there? Are you thinking about a method or something I can use?
Could you just copy and paste what we wrote down below in there?
You talk about the you want like the input question and all of that stuff?
No, the console.log hello, comma.
Oh, you talking about put it right here on like line number 19?
Yeah.
Well, you could do that, but it wants you to put it here.
Oh,
wants you to put it there.
wrong stuff in this.
Huh?
I must be doing this wrong. Yeah, I'm not quite sure then.
That's okay. Anybody else? Can anybody else see it? Why didn't candidate name print? Hello, candidate's name. They're stored inside that variable.
Did you already delete the word part for candidate name? Did we get rid of that by place?
Ooh, did I? Yep, I got rid of it. Yep. So it's gone. So candidate name, we ask the question, we know it's being stored there, but how come candidate name is not coming up right there? Is there a workaround for this?
Is it because at the top we have it as a blank?
It's an empty string. So when you have an empty string, when you set something as an empty string, what does that should tell you when you do that? What is the thinking behind setting something or assigning something to an empty string or an empty array?
Is it just a placeholder until you actually find the answer?
Say it again.
Isn't it just a placeholder? Like, and then when you find the answer, you got to go back and put it in there.
We want it to get stored in here somewhere so we're able to use this anywhere inside of our program.
So then we have to go back up to candidate name.
Yeah, so right, we may have to get something to store in there. What's something that we could use to store candidate name or our input up here in candidate name? Because obviously it didn't store it, or do I need to come down here and do something that, so we got console.log hello world, we know that's working, but it's just not catching the candidate name. So candidate name, this is spelled correctly, right? So we know it's spelled correctly because when I click on it, it's highlighting everywhere else. Wait a minute. Is this spelled correctly?
Huh. It's not highlighting.
It sure isn't. So that's spelled right?
Let us look into that.
Yeah. It's not highlighting.
Unfair.
So let me go ahead and highlight. So when I highlight this, that should be highlighted, right? Because it's highlighted down here. So is it spelled wrong?
You have to do the input though. Input that question, correct?
Yeah, we need to add that up there.
Is it the let?
We need to add the input that question up here to the question.
No, we need to add it to let candidate name equal because we want the candidate name to be the answer that they give us. So right now it's just an empty string because it was like a placeholder, right? So we have to get rid of the empty string and we have to go down to line 18 and put what's on the other side of that assignment operator. Or what's on the other side of the, maybe because, well, I mean, it seems redundant. It almost seems like you just need to delete line 6, maybe, because you already have it at line 18 anyway.
You don't want to delete it.
Is it the let in line 18 that we need to take off?
Oh, yeah, maybe on the line 18? Yeah.
You want to take that off? Okay. Yeah. Are we learning something today, y'all? Are we learning why and when to use that let? So let's run it. Bingo. There we go. So now, is this making sense now?
Not really. I'm sorry. I kind of missed that.
That's okay.
Now.
So no, what happened was, remember, this is global right here.
Mm-hmm.
And we assigned it a let right here, so we made it local. Now, remember when I was saying that it wasn't highlighting, when I was highlighting everything else? If I go here and I put let in front of it, it becomes local to this ask for. So technically, no other function, this function can't read it. Remember, functions are local. So this function can't read this candidate right here because we made it a whole totally different variable. So now when you look, do you see how it's not highlighting up here when I highlight candidate name? But yeah, when I highlight this candidate name, this code editor is giving you some tips. It's showing you where your problems can be. This is why it's important to understand how your code, I always say, definitely understand your code editor. But do you see now, we made this local because remember, let is lexical. It's local. It declares a variable local. Now, once you remove that, now when I click it, now you see it has access. You see how it's highlighted up there?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I could have been thinking, is it misspelled? It's because we made it local. So this is why you want to play around with the code. So, because right now, this should make more sense to you when you see it actually working. So now, Piero.
Yeah.
Do you understand what happened?
Yes and no, because I did have it defined as let candidate name, and it was working for me for some reason. So I'm wondering why that might have been the case.
But is your code exactly like mine? Do you still have an empty string up here on 6?
Nope.
Put the empty string there and see if it works. You want to make your code dynamic. You don't want to hard code anything. Putting those questions up here, and when we put the questions, we're hard coding questions into our program. But when you start building programs, you don't want to hard code anything. You're going to put all this stuff in an object, and you're going to use an API to pull that stuff in. So it's important to understand how that works. So now when you change your numbered line 6 to an empty string and try to run it now, does it work?
Nah, for me now it's just going straight to who was the first American woman in space.
Mm-hmm. And so that little bit of information changes the whole game. That's a logic error.
Wait, I typed it wrong. Yeah.
Now hover it. Go ahead and click on the candidate name inside this function. And is it highlighting anywhere else with that let keyword on it?
Yeah.
It is?
Oh, wait, no, I have it different than you.
Yeah. Well, remember you changed it too because we had to remove stuff as you went into part 2 and part 3. So you might have changed some stuff around. We're still in part 1. But this is why it's important to understand how this works, because when you run across these logic errors, you got to remember, okay, the rule of how things are working. So that makes sense right there? So
Can I stop you for a sec? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ann.
I'm just looking at what my end result was. And under 1.1.b, when I let candidate I have I noted out above it, I turned it off, the candidate equals empty string. I have 2 questions. When I did let candidate equal empty string, I put the empty string inside of parentheses. Is that necessary or no?
No. You talk about in the parentheses of...
When it says let candidate's name when the instructions were, assign it to an empty string, I put let candidate name equal parentheses,
You don't want to use
I
parentheses.
don't need the parentheses.
No, you don't. And I see a few of you do that. You don't need parentheses when you are initializing variables. And remember, it's called an assignment operator.
I think that I realized last night when I was working on this, when I'm doing that, I'm thinking Excel. You know, I'm stuck in Excel mode because it doesn't do anything unless you do that inside. So I've got to get rid of that. But my question was, as I was working through the steps, I went up to 1.1b, and I don't know if it's farther down because we haven't gotten there yet. It's been a while. I had let candidate equal input.question. So I called it at 1.1b. Should I have left it as an empty string?
No, this is where you're supposed to ask the candidate name. But remember, call it an assignment operator. You keep calling it equal sign, so that's why I'm gonna keep beating y'all on it. You don't need to declare it anymore. It's already been declared up here. Once it's declared up here, this is why we made them global.
So, and I think you don't need the let in the 1.1b.
You got candidate name. Yeah, you just need candidate name. Because can y'all see that in my replit? You see how it's highlighted? Can y'all see that? When I'm on candidate name, y'all can see that, right? Yes. When I put let in front of it, what happened? If I go ahead and highlight candidate name, it doesn't have access to this global candidate name. It's local. This is why your code editors are powerful tools. They help you out with syntax highlighting and letting you know some things if you understand what you're looking at. And so normally I could just do a console.log to test this and debug it. But right here, I realized that it's not reading the global candidate. It's not connected. So when this got saved, it's only saving it to the local. I can only call it locally, but I want it to be pushed up here. So I have to remove that let because I don't need to declare it anymore. All I have to do is pull it down. It's already been declared. I just need to assign it something.
A question.
Yes.
So like line 16 through 21, that's one function in itself. And then at line 18, that dot question is a method within the function.
It is.
But Kyle was saying that JavaScript, they're not called. Like in the book, they say methods, but then he said, don't call it a method, call it a function. So I'm not sure, like that part's confusing me.
Yeah, he said that in the review of this. I know what you're talking about. I wrote it down in my notes. Well,
when you get to objects, methods are a part of objects. This is a method because it's assigned to an object. Now, he may be saying that this is a function up here, and there's an argument for that. Some will say they're functions, some will say they're methods. You may call require a function because remember it has the parentheses. Methods and functions are similar, but in JavaScript, they're called methods and functions. When you get over to Java, they're only methods. You don't call them functions in Java. You call them methods. And so it kind of gets confusing trying to shift between the two. This is why you got to get a good understanding of it. But yes, in JavaScript, they're called methods. And I don't know what he meant when what he was saying when he told y'all that, but this is a method because it's assigned to this object. Methods are assigned to objects. Always remember that. And we're going to go over that when we get to objects. And he may not want y'all to, because I don't know what his thinking was when he said it. So I can't assume, but in JavaScript, they're both methods and objects. Functions. And we'll go over it in objects. It'll make more sense. We even said it in the inside of the functions. When you read chapter 10, it tells you that methods are assigned to that are assigned to objects. But you scratching your head right there, Rachel, like, oh my God.
If I did function question, like if I had a whole new function, I could do function question, and then that question would be a function instead of a method.
Well, it would be inside the function. It would be just like right here. Ask for name is a function.
Okay.
That's a function. How do I call a function? Because I haven't read the chapter yet. It's called right here. When we have this function called run program, we're running the program calling all three of these functions. How do you call a function? You call the function name with a parentheses. This one has no arguments in it, but this grade quiz does. This has an argument inside of it. And we'll go over that, what an argument is. And so inside this run program, which is right here, it's been exported right here to the console. So that's why I say don't touch it, because you see that word module. You just created all these modules, right? All these modules are created for us, and we're getting access to those modules, but we had to use the export to export them. And this is an object. Anything that's inside of the curly braces is an object, but that's for later understanding. But this is how you call or invoke. You invoke. It's called invocation. You invoke methods, and this is how you invoke that method. That's how that ask question is getting invoked in the program. That's how come you see it down here inside of the console, because that's the way they wrote the code. So ask for name is a function. And inside of this body, which is these curly braces, is what you're trying to execute. Everything inside the curly braces is what we call the body. And this is where you put your code to execute. And so the reason why we use functions, because functions are reusable. I can write all my code here, and all I have to do is invoke it by calling that. That's it. It's going to take some practice to get your head around that, because it may be still a little confusing, but the more and more you practice and try different scenarios, the more it's going to make sense. And then you're going to start understanding when you start realizing, oh, I can't do that. And then you start understanding what the rule is. Oh, it says this, but now I understand. The reason why this worked the way it did is because I had this other stuff added to it that you may not have picked up on when you were reading it the first time. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody? So far, is this stuff working for y'all? Are y'all following what I'm doing on part 1? All right, cool. Now, the next person that popped up on my screen is JP. JP, I want you to do 1.2. I want you to read A for me.
Ask the user to answer a single quiz question. Look for to do 1.2a. Below the to do, comment, define variables called question, comma, correct answer, and answer candidate.
These 3, okay.
Question should be initialized to the following string. Who was the first American woman in space?
All right, so how would I do that?
So this is for which way?
Question. We're on question. So how do I initialize that question?
So yes, you would add the question from the
So I can add the question.
string, like who is the first American woman behind what question?
And then how do I add it to it? What's the syntax?
There was some operator. Quotes and then just copy and paste what you have highlighted.
All right. Don't forget to leave that space in there, because it will break on you. It'll fail your test. So it says here, we already read, we know what the tip is. So go down here to correct answer. What is the correct answer supposed to be?
Solid red.
Okay, so I'm going to take that. How do I do it? What's the syntax?
Summon operator, and then solid red.
All right. Now, what's the next one that says?
Find to do.
Yeah, you're on B.
1.2b using your question variable.
All right, so I'm looking for 1.2. 2B. Okay, here it is right here.
Using your question variable, display the question.
One more thing I got to do. It says candidate answer will be initialized to set empty string. So I need to do that, right?
Yes.
Let's do that. All right. So now we're at 1.2b. All right, what does it say do?
Using your question variable, so that'd be the who is display the question and prompt the candidate for their answer.
How do I do that?
So it'd be candidate answer.
So I need candidate answer. Okay, let me go ahead and copy that. And how do I write that syntax?
So it'd be candidate, I guess we keep candidate input. No.
No, so we're going to use the variable candidate answer, and I'm going to do what? I'm going to assign it what?
The question. Or the answer. So it would be empty. With the empty string?
Nope, but I got to first prompt
input.
Okay.
And then that would be
What else do I need?
access operator.
Mm-hmm.
Then it would be answer.
Did you say it already or did I miss it?
No, I haven't said it yet.
Oh, okay.
Ask. Oh, shoot. So now we need to ask for the answer.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got to actually, so input dot, I need a method or a property. Which one do I need to put here? What do I need to type here?
So we need a method.
Huh?
We need a method.
Mm-hmm. It's up here. You got an example.
Oh, the question. So would we answer?
Yep, we need a question.
Yeah. Okay.
And then what am I going to pass inside of here? So I can ask the question. We've already created the variable. The question is already stored. So what do I need to pass inside this?
The answer.
But what should I pass inside the, because I got to ask the question, right?
So this is a module?
Nope. I need that variable. This variable right here. I want to pass it in right here because remember what input question is. Input is the object. Oh, wrong one. Input is the object. Let me get this. Oh. Let me copy this real quick so I don't misspell it. So input is the object. Question is the method. And then I want to ask the question. I could just type the question out right here, but I stored the question in the variable. The reason why we do that is because it makes the code cleaner, right? And so what if I have this question in multiple places? I don't have to go in here and change that question in multiple places. All I have to do is come here and change that question right here in this variable. And it will change it automatically in the multiple places. So here, I just have to pass in the variable. That's the power of variables. This is why it's so important for y'all to understand how variables work. So we did that. So we did part B. Now, what does it say in part C?
Underneath, check the candidate's answer to see if it's correct.
So I gotta go to 1.2c. I gotta check to see if the candidate answer is correct. All right, so how do you first let's see if it's doing what I need to do. Let's test it first. And then I want to test it. So what should I put up on the candidate answer?
So console.log.
Okay. And what do I want to put inside of that console.log? What am I checking for? What do I want to have print?
Candidate's answer is what we're looking for, right?
All right, so this is right. So this is what we want to test to make sure this is working. All right, so I'm going to run this. I'm going to put my name in here. All right. right? So what should I type? It said hello China. So what should I type now? It said who was the first woman in space?
Then this is when you would type in, the user would type in
The answer.
Sally Ride.
So somebody else was having this question, I think. So it's working. It's stored inside of candidate answer. Now let me do one more check. I want to see, is it reaching? Yep. So it's being stored in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see how it's highlighted, right? You know that's working. So if I need to get to that candidate answer again, I should be able to get what's being stored right there if I need it. Which we're getting ready to do that right here in part C. Now, how do you feel about this, JP? Do you feel comfortable? Because I can give somebody else a shot because this is the last part of this. You feel good about comfortable breaking this down on how to do 1.2C, check the candidate's answer to see if it's correct?
And I'll do it. Also
Let's do it. So now this is why I say it's so important to understand the terms, the terminology and the concepts. In your mind, what are you thinking you need to do? Read the question and this is what we call pseudocode. Sometimes you write pseudocode out first to make sure that somebody said that delete for a bit. Okay. Pseudocode for a minute. So pseudocode. So think for a second before we write this down. What concept are we thinking about that we need to do to say? It says check the candidate's answers to see if it is correct. What pops in your head?
So we have to ask them the question with the F.
But how do I check?
If their answer is
and what is it? So what is the if statement? What do we call if statements? They are called if statements are called, and somebody help them out. What are if statements called?
Conditional.
There you go. They're called conditionals.
Conditionals, okay.
You need a conditional. So this is why I say understand. You should be thinking conditionals. When someone says check, when you see that word check, when you see that word if inside of some code challenges, you should be thinking, okay, they may want a conditional. So if, what am I comparing? How am I comparing? It says what? Check the candidate's answers to see if it is correct. And then we're going to provide.
Candidate answer is correct.
Wait a minute. Nope. So you
it was solid ride.
All right. So what I need to put first, I want to check the candidate's, the candidate's answer, right?
Right.
I want to see, we got the candidate answer, right? So I'm going to put that there. What am I comparing it to? What did we create up here? What is this called right here? That's the correct answer, right? Sally Ride is stored in that variable. So how do I compare those two? Now think, which operator do I need to compare the two? Because remember, I'm in the wrong place. I put that in the wrong place. I meant to put that in my if statement. I don't even need that anymore, so I'm going to comment that out.
On the console log.
Yeah. Hold on, what's going on here? Oh, I'm hitting the wrong thing. Where I'm at, right here. All right, so a candidate answer, and I need to do what? I'm in my conditional. Remember, conditionals are Booleans. They're true or false. I'm trying to check for true or false. So candidate answer, that's the answer because you asked the question. You asked the question, who was the first woman in space? And you put your answer as Sally Ride, right here, right? It's being stored into this variable now. We know it's being connected because when I test and I highlight candidate, it's highlighting up there. So I know they're connected. It's connected to that global variable. So here, I got an answer right here. What am I comparing this answer to? I'm comparing my answer to what? And what operator do I need to compare that answer to? My answer with? It's an operator.
It's an operator.
What kind?
Assignment?
What you say?
Assignment?
No, you call it assignment operator now, but what is it called if it wasn't an assignment operator? What else is it called? Yeah, but what kind of equal sign do I need?
2. It would be 2 or 3. So it would be the strict?
It'll be the strict. And the reason why you want to do now, let me ask somebody else this question because I want you to finish this. What's the difference between double equal and triple equal? Anybody?
Can I answer that?
You want to answer it? Go ahead, answer it. No, let's go ahead.
So like with 2, so say with 2, it's a loose answer. So it can be like it's close. Like
say soft.
A soft. So it doesn't have to be like 100% correct.
That's right.
So it can be like true equals like a apostrophe true. That would be a true statement because it's double equals.
Well, let me give you another better connect. Let's say if you have a number that's inside of a string and a number that's not. So you got a number data type and you have a string so you have the number 3 and then you have a string with the number 3. If I use the double equal, it will say they're both true. If I want to say is this string number 3, no, if I say double equal, if I say double equal, this string number 3 is double equal to the number 3, the answer will be true. But if I use a strictly equal, what will happen? It'll be false. Why would it be false? Why would it be false?
It's a number to a string.
Right. It's two different data types.
Right.
And that's what it's comparing. So now I'm comparing this candidate answer to what?
The correct answer.
The correct answer. Correct. So now I'm going to get this correct answer right here. I'll copy that. I'll put it right here. I'm going to get rid of that space. There we go. I had a couple of spaces in there. Now I have my condition. I'm checking to see if candidate answer is strictly equal to correct answer, which I'm looking for true. Now I'm inside my code block because I'm in my curly braces. What do I need to write here? What do I need to execute if it's true? If the candidate answer is strictly equal to the correct answer, that means it's true. What should I type right here? I want to print out to the console if that's true. So what would I type right here? What would be my syntax? Or what could I use?
So what else, right?
Well, I want to put it to the screen. I want to put it to the
console log.
Okay.
Console.log.
Okay, console. And what would I pass inside here? What will go inside here? What would I write inside this console.log?
Because I want to print out the answer.
No, I want to print out if it's true or false. So is it going to be correct or if it's not correct? So I'm going to type that is correct. So.
All right.
Now, because it's true. If I ran this and it's true, it's going to print. But if I don't add something else to it, if it's false, it's not going to print anything. So what do I need to add right here to check if it's false? If it's true, I want you to print this. If it's not false. True, and how do I do that?
Will that also be a console log?
Did you say it again?
Will that also be a console log or else?
Mm-hmm. And now I need to do a console log because I want to print to the screen.
That is incorrect?
Yep. Now, let's run it. Let's test our code to see if it's working, right? So let's run it. So what should I type right here?
For the correct answer, we sell it right.
Okay, how should I type it?
Capital S, A, lowercase a, L-L-Y, space, capital R, I-D.
All right, so if I hit this, what's going to happen? You need to know the input before you hit run. So what should you get back? What's the output?
This is correct.
There you go. All right, let's run it again because you got to test your code out. Now, so now I'm going to do lowercase because this is strict, right? So although it's right, why would it be incorrect? Because
it's not capitalized. It's not camel case or it's not on capital.
So there you go. The computer doesn't. There's no magic behind none of this. You got to tell this computer what to do. So now when I hit, that is not correct because it's not matching what we have in there. And we're going to talk about this in step when I go through and walk through step 3 with y'all because remember. Let me move this out the way. This is what did I call this? Anybody remember what I called this requirements? If you're working on your job, what did I call those requirements? Anybody remember? Well, write it down because you're gonna need to notice when you get hired. Because they'll definitely appreciate if you understand Scrum and Agile. It's your acceptance criteria. This is AC, acceptance criteria. We're giving you the acceptance criteria for this whole entire story. And we've just finished up task 1. So now our program is working. So now we're getting ready to tackle the next part. Now let me ask y'all a question. How many of you got this far? Part 1 done and got it done and you got the same results or similar. Well, your results should be the same. You might have approached it differently, but your results should be the same. So everybody got that result, right?
Yeah, I did.
Cooley.
Really? Sorry.
Go ahead.
On 25, how come candidate answer is equal to the question instead of the answer?
On 25 right here?
Uh-huh.
Look at it. Look at it a little closer.
Because we want, no.
You're asking a question right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
This question is inside of a variable.
And that's the question of who is the first woman in space, right?
Correct. Because we could just write who was the first woman in space like we did up here when we asked, please enter your name. We could have put, please enter your name in a variable. We didn't have to type it here.
Right.
We could have put it in a variable. All we did was put it in a variable. And remember, question is a method. And what question wants to do, it wants to get access to what's inside of input. Question is where we're storing the actual question. So question is pointing to that string that says, who was the first woman in space? I don't have
the answer is equal to, the answer is assigned to the question?
Well, this is your answer. Because this is the input. Remember?
Okay.
So if I console.log that out,
because we want them to input their answer to the question.
Yes, so when I ask the question, so let's look at it. So So I'm going to type my name. I'm just going to type T. That's the question. So what happens is going sequentially. The first function is ask for name, is invoked first. But let me show you something here. Let me show that it's sequential. Let's go down here. Now, y'all don't do this. I'm going to put it right there. Clear that out. What you think is going to happen? What's going to happen first?
Hello will be displayed first.
Will it? Let's see. Let's run it. There you go. You don't see my name, right?
Mm.
Because everything is sequential. That function didn't get called first. It didn't get invoked first. What got invoked first is the question. Well, what got invoked first is the console.log, hello. And so what happens if I put Sally Ride? I'm just going to put S there. Please enter your name. Now it comes up. That is correct. It's all goes in order. So it makes a difference where you put this stuff. It makes a huge difference where you put your console.log. It makes a huge difference where you order your functions because it's going sequentially unless you're using asynchronous, which we'll talk about later. So what I'm doing on my keyboard, I'm on a Mac right now. I'm doing Command Z to put everything back to where I had it at first. So I'm just using Command Z as in zebra, or zebra, depending on where you're from. You got a question? Oh, okay. I love PRO. I thought you had a question. Okay. So does that make sense now? Do you understand why we're storing it in candidate answer? Because we asked the question. We asked you to do that. We asked you here, ask, because I sound like I'm saying ask the user to answer a single quiz question. Look to the 1.2a. So where's that 1.2a at? Right up here somewhere. Okay, up here. This is where we wrote the question out. And then we wanted to store, it says, using your question variable, display the question, which we did, and prompt the candidate for their answer. Understand, I need an answer. It doesn't have to be called candidate answer. This is just a variable that we created. It can just be called answer, but that's not descriptive, is it? We want it to be descriptive. So this is why we have the candidate answer. So I'm prompting the user a question. They answer the question, and it's stored in this candidate answer, and we console logged it to make sure that's where it was stored. That makes sense? All right, cool. All right, now, so we're ready to go to the next part 2. All right, we're ready to have some fun. Now let me look at see who, because we got everything shifted around. Who I haven't asked you. I haven't asked you, Beasia, did I? We're gonna start you off on part 2. So go ahead and read
I'm so sad because I'm nervous about part 2.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's how you're gonna learn. Go ahead, read it for me.
So part 2, now that your small app is working expanded to deal with multiple questions, this time you only have one to-do item in the starter code. You will need to determine which lines need to be modified. So first you need to define questions and correct answers as variables as arrays.
All right.
And use the table below to fill in the arrays.
Cool. So let's look up here. So now we're down here to these last 3 variables, right? And here's the table right here. Let me move this out the way a little bit for you so we can see. So what we need to do is we need to create an array of questions. Now, why would we use an array here?
Because you have things that you need to go through and cycle through, maybe, and arrays are good for that. You've got this long list of a bunch of questions and a bunch of answers, and you're going to need to pair them up. So an array would be good for the questions, and then an array would be good for the answers because you can pull them out.
Yeah, and
in an indexed way, right?
Starting it with an index, but it's a collection.
It's a collection.
When you have a collection of things, you want to use an array. So remember now, what is an array? How many data structures can you have, or data types can you have in an array?
You can have multiple.
So you can have, you don't have to be one data type. It can be multiple data types, correct?
Yes.
All right. So here, let's go ahead and let's do our question. So what I want to do is, you're going to give me the syntax. What do I need to do?
So you're going to have questions equal, you're going to have questions and you're going to give it the assignment operator.
Or say assigning. Oh, I'm
not an equal.
Right.
Right, it's the assignment operator. So you're going to let questions be assigned the array, so you're going to need the square brackets.
All right. Now, another way I could say this too, so y'all don't have to say, because y'all getting good at this with the assignment operator, you could say initialized. You could say declare and initialize. Okay?
So you're going to declare the variable questions and initialize it with an array,
Correct.
right?
Now,
So with the brackets and then, yeah.
now I'm
And
gonna
then inside of the brackets,
okay.
so inside of the brackets, you need to put each question, but each question needs to be in parentheses, and each question needs a comma after it.
Parentheses?
Not parentheses, sorry. They need to be in quotations. They need. That's what I was trying to. That's what I was trying to say.
Because they're strings, right?
Yes.
All right. So this is what I call boilerplate. Let me explain something to y'all real quick. In the beginning, you want to have a structure. You got to understand formatting. It's so important that you learn how to format your code. So I'm going to do a quick little boilerplate thing here, right? And I'm going, because we got 5 questions, right?
Yes.
So I am going to create me a little boilerplate with, you don't have to do it like this. You figure out the best way for you. But I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. And I'm doing it in this order because I want it to, so it can be readable. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this one because I'm not going to type that in. And that's my first one. Make sure you put a space in there because you're going to be able to separate your answer from the question. So here we go. We got the first one, right?
Yes.
All right. So now I'm going to do the second one. Do this third one. I'm going to do this big long one right here. Now, I want you to pay attention to something here. You notice that I have another array in here, right? But it's inside those quotes, so it's still considered a string. But you notice that I have a single quote around orbit and around trajectory because 8 is a number and 45 is a number. And I had to put that inside of that string because I can't use another double quote right here. Because if I use another double quote, you see I'm going to get an error, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all remember why?
Yeah, because you can, there's rules about the quotation marks and how they kind of can be next to each other, right? So you can't have, you either do all double quotes or you do all single, right? But you can't play games. You can't have like you can't have both at the same time.
Right.
I don't know. I know that there's a, yeah.
Right. You can't have them both at the same line. So like if I have this double quote right here, whatever inside of it, it can't be another double quote. Because what the compiler is going to see is that, okay, you got a double quote. It's letting me know this is where the string ends. But the string doesn't end. It ends at this double quote. If I put this double quote right here, it's going to blow up. But you notice I don't have a line up under this one, right? Because this is where the compiler thinks this is where the string ends. Because I have an opening and a closing quote. Opening and closing curly brackets. Opening square bracket and closing square brackets. Whatever, and you're going to learn this later on, you're going to always have opening and closing. Opening and closing in JavaScript. But there's a rule to that too that we'll discuss later. All right, so now what do I need to do next?
Could I please ask a question?
Go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, like suppose you want the orbit in double quotes, then we can shift the double quotes before given into single, right? Is that allowed?
Well, let me make sure I understand. Because there is a rule here. We can still do a double quote here if we wanted to, but there's another rule. Is that what you're asking me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so what you're saying is this. If I wanted to use a double quote, I would have to escape it. I think you put it first, or you might do it last. Yeah, so what you got to do, because I always get confused which goes first. And then I escape it here, but you're using escape. So if I want to use, all right, you see how that worked? I have to escape it in order to use the double quotes. You notice I don't have the error anymore.
Wow, I didn't know that. I was just asking, like,
we could switch the double quotes with single quotes. But thank you, I like this one.
Yeah, so you can escape. There's a lot of stuff we can do when we start escaping stuff. And so,
Thank you.
okay, you're welcome. And so that's how you can add double quotes if you want to. And so that's a rule. But like I said, you get comfortable using that rule before you start doing it. All right, because you wonder, why is that not working? Because you got to escape it. So now I got to do the correct answer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going to initialize correct answers to an array, but it has to be in the same order. That there's a big warning sign underneath that says, so since who was the first American woman in space was first in that other array, Sally Ride has to be first in this array, but with the same setup. So, they each get their own quotation marks, and they each get a column. Maybe not the 40 or the 3, but there the 40 and the 3 are both inside quotation marks. So I just put them in quotation marks in my initialization, but I know that they're numbers. But I think they're being used as strings.
That's correct. And you're going to do that because anybody can tell me a use case or edge case for why you will put numbers inside of a string?
The only thing I could think of is so that you can manipulate it like you do strings instead of numbers, but I don't know if that's the right answer.
Because input dot question returns a string. The type of...
Well, it's going to be converted to a string regardless, right?
Yes.
It's going to be converted. But an edge case for using strings around numbers, think of if you have a zip code or if you have a date, if you have a telephone number, you're going to want to put those in strings. You don't want for them to be numbers because it's not going to read it as what you intended for it to be. So just like your input is going to convert everything to a string. And that's why it's important to remember that. But that's one of the rules. But now, can anybody tell me why I got squiggly lines? Why am I have errors right here? What's
because you don't have commas, yeah.
All right, and why? Why do I need those?
Because you're in an array.
Yeah, items of an array. Right.
There we go. So they're all gone. And these are little things you got to pay attention to because these are kind of things that are hitting you up if you're not used to it. We make these mistakes a lot too. So what we've done is we've created. So now, Beasia, now you're at the second part, number 2. Go ahead and read it for me.
Replace your code from to do 1.2b with a loop that programmatically asks each question in the array and stores the user's responses. So this is where I kind of froze because I know what I need to do. In my head, when I see that, I think, okay, you've got to get the user to ask a question, or you've got to ask the user a question, get them to answer, and you've got to store their answer, but then you've got to get them to answer the second question, the third question. So you have to cycle through all of those in addition to gaining their responses. And the setup for that is eluding me because somewhere in there, you've got to input a question with, so I've lost the setup in my mind, but I know what needs to happen. So I'm probably done. I don't think I could do it right now.
Okay, well, let's do the first thing. It says replace your code first with a loop that programmatically asks each question in the array and stores the user response. Okay, loop. Let's write a loop.
Okay.
How do you write that?
So to make a loop, you have to focus on...
What's the syntax? Give me the syntax.
The syntax is for and in parentheses, and then let I equal 0.
Oh, you said equal, didn't you?
Oh, let I be assigned 0, the value of 0.
All right, we can just initialize it.
Initialize it to 0. You've got your colon.
Let me stop you here. Let me ask y'all all a question. Whenever we do this, if you watch what I was saying, one of the things I was introducing to all of you is state. Understanding state. You got to understand state. When I'm initializing this at 0, we know that this is representing the index, right?
Right.
But I want when I'm setting it at 0, I want it to start somewhere. That means I'm starting at 0. I'm setting my state to 0. When you walk into a dark room, the state of the room is what?
Dark.
It is dark. When you turn on the light switch, what is the state of the room?
White.
There we go. So when you walk, that's one state. When I walk into a room and it's dark, the state of the room is dark. In order for me to change the state, I have to turn on the light switch to change the state. Well, this is the initial state. I'm starting at 0. So it's just like I'm going into this particular for loop. I'm starting at 0. 0, if y'all remember my binary, zeros and ones, 0 represents off, 1 represents on. Technically, I'm at the off state. I'm starting off right now at off. And as I start looping, I start incrementing one at a time. So this is where we start. So now that is our initial statement. What is the second one? Because there are 3 parts to a for loop. What's the second part? And it's called what? Hold on for a second. We got a hand. Go ahead, Jaron. I want to call it. It's Jaron, right?
Yeah. It's
okay.
The second part is the Boolean expression that you have to include.
Yes. But we call it.
Forgot what the terminology was for this part.
It's true. It's Boolean, but we got a name for it. We call it the. What is an if? An if is a.
Conditional
there you
expression.
Go. There you go. So, Beasia, I'm gonna have Beasia finish. Go ahead and finish it for me, Beasia. What should I do right here?
So you need I. So it's going to be I, and then we need I to cycle. We need I to cycle through the question. So I needs to be in my head. It's less than.
It's always going to be less than when we're starting at 0. Remember, because it's got to evaluate to true. Once it evaluates to false, that's when it stops.
So then I is less than the name of the array. So questions dot length.
So I need to find that array, which
is questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now remember, where am I at? Let me find where I'm at. Where? I'm up, going up one. Right. I forgot where I'm at.
Yeah.
Right. Here we go. Right here.
38. Yeah.
All right. So now. What did you say I need next?
See, in my head, you needed dot length because dot length is a property that will cycle through all of them, the whole length of the array.
And you see the difference now because that access operator is either on the right side is going to be a property or a method. Those are the only 2 things. Now with this bracket notation, you can have a bracket notation by itself. But the dot notation, it's giving you access. So here we go. So questions dot length, and I got my semicolon. What do I need to do next?
So what in my head, what needs to happen is those curly brackets inside of the curly.
You got one more. You got one more thing.
You need to find a way. Oh yeah. It's you need to call the I++. You need to call the iteration. You need to make sure that it goes through it adds 1 to each cycle of the loop.
Now, what do we call that?
And then
what's the term that we call that?
I was so hoping you wouldn't ask me that because in my head I see the word.
All right, hold on.
I don't remember it.
That's okay. Go ahead, Gerard.
It's the update expression.
There you
The
go.
update expression.
All right. So now you made it to the curly braces.
I need to find a way, or we have to find a way to get it to cycle through the question and then pause and let them answer.
Well, we have it right here on line 41. Could we use that? Could I use line 41 and modify it a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what we want. We want them to stop and ask the question.
And what do I want to ask a question or do I want to ask questions?
You want? Oh, so yeah. So maybe we do put the questions in there.
Okay. All right. So let's do that.
You have to do something else.
All right. Well, first, let's run it. Let's see what we're working with. Okay. Let's see if anything is going to blow up on us. So let's run it. All right. So you're the compiler. You're the programmer. You should know what the output is. I'm going to ask someone else that want to answer this before I hit run. Who knows what this output should be before I run it?
What it should be?
Yep. What's supposed to be the output? What's the output? What is the output before I run?
It's supposed to do each question one at a time. Starting with the first one.
It should? Okay. Let me run it then. Oh, but it gave me all the questions.
That's what happened when I did it. It didn't give me time to have people insert their answer before I ran it again.
Okay, so now let's think for a second. Let's go back to our for loop. Look at your for loop. What are we doing?
Right now, we're just cycling through the questions.
Think of an access operator that's going to do what I wanted to loop through it one at a time. There's an access operator. There's only two access operators, but what's the other access operator?
So,
anybody? Go ahead.
You have to use the bracket notation.
Okay, where would I be using that? Where would I put it?
In the parentheses, it'd be questions, the bracket notation with I.
Oh, is it starting? Are you starting to get an aha moment right now, BH, when you add that?
Yeah, I'm looking at it like, okay.
Okay, now remember, we can use the console.log, right, to check this, right? So let me do this. It's always good to go ahead and test your stuff. There it is. All right, so it's right here. I'm going to use the console.log.
In this case, wouldn't it be candidates answers with an S on the end of it?
All right, pay attention. We're going to get to that because I'm going to show you something because I bet y'all, some of y'all had this problem, but we're about to see. I bet some of y'all had this problem. All right, so let's just test it to make sure it's doing what we want it to do. So anybody want to tell me what the output is going to be?
Ask the question.
Okay. Is it going to iterate over each question?
Yes.
It is. Okay, so it's going to iterate over each question. And this console.log is going to do what? What is it going to print on the screen for me?
The answers of the candidate.
It's going to print what?
The answers given by the candidate.
Well, we're not going to do the answers yet. We just want to make sure it's going to print out.
Oh, console.I. It's just the number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, because you're asking for the position.
That's the I, yeah. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0. There.
Whoa, wait. What? Oh, wait, that's different. So it pointed out, it gave us 0?
Yeah, that's I.
That's the index of that question.
Oh, so we didn't loop through all the questions.
Not yet. Oh, wait. Is that question number 2? Yeah.
I think you needed it, Terrence.
Oh, because you have to answer. No, isn't it right now? Because, wait, Sally Ride shouldn't have a 0, and that's,
Well, that's the first question within the array, so it's got the index of 0. I think it's just outputting what index it actually is.
oh, and it's outputting the answer.
Yeah. Am I?
I can't hear Terrence either.
Because we need to, instead of console logging the index, we need to console log the candidate answer.
Yes.
Isn't it supposed
Yeah,
to
right, Rachel.
Okay.
be answers?
When you console log the candidate answer, does it also have an I in brackets, or does it not? It's just the candidate answer. For line 40.
Well, when I ran it, I just did it and it let me cycle through. But then I got to the end where it says the minimum crew 3 and it said incorrect. So somewhere it's going back up and getting my Sally Ride incorrect thing.
Should be checked for capitals or like if the candidate answered lowercase SALLY, it will come as incorrect.
Oh, so when I run it, it is working.
Yeah.
It's telling me whether or not I have the right answer.
Yes. Even a small, they have to be exactly same, strict equals. Even a small, like if you add another blank or any lowercase instead of uppercase, it goes incorrect.
It's wrong. Right, so Sally from... Oh, so then it'll tell me, like, great job if I did it right. Okay, so I think we did it, right?
Somewhere, so see where at the bottom on his, it's saying that is not correct because he entered, like all the other ones didn't enter whether they were correct or not. It just moved to the next question, but then he got to the last one and the 3. But that is not correct. Is from when we were first asking who is the first woman in space. So he's answering 3 to who is the first woman in space, kind of.
Supposed to.
Or the answer would be Sally Ride, but now it's saying not correct. So somewhere we need to take out. So should it be answers instead of answer?
Yeah, it's supposed to be answers.
Console log answers.
Okay.
We have to change the candidate answer equals input to candidate answers also.
Yeah, okay.
Because that was the previous one.
Oh, and then it'll make you it gives you 2 cycles through if you get it wrong. Like I cycled through once and it said try again. And then it just moved to the second one. But it didn't say if I got it right or not.
Can we hold up and wait for Terrence to get back on here? Terrence, do you know we can't hear you? Shake your head yes.
I'm so dead.
Can you hear us?
He's letting us work through it.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to talk. That's the problem.
Okay, he's cool.
Oh no, he's trying to talk.
Working.
So,
Can you hear me?
yeah,
You can hear me now, huh?
yeah.
I was up here talking the whole time. I said, I don't think y'all can hear me. The point I was trying.
I'm sorry, can we get the code on the screen so we can...
The code?
Well, what I'm looking at is the console.
Okay, you want to see the questions, right?
I want to see what we...
Oh, okay. You want to see the code?
The for statement.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, this is what I wanted to point out to y'all real quick. The reason why I did this little exercise, is because I wanted you to see that each one of these, that how it's looping. It's looping through all the questions. So this 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are the indexes. So I was hearing y'all talking. I said, okay, they can't hear me. But y'all was actually working through it, which was good. And so we haven't assigned the answer yet. We haven't did the for loop because the loop that it, remember, is going sequentially. It's hopping down here to number 49. But 49 is not written yet because we haven't gotten to that one yet. We're still up here trying to ask the question. And we need to get that to be stored up in here. Make sure it's stored in the candidate's answers, which I have to assign it a candidate answer. What should I assign it here, Beasia, since she was working on this? I need to assign it.
It's the input dot question.
No, I'm talking about line 25. On line 25, I got to have something empty right here because I want to store it in there.
Oh, you just need the empty string for right now.
But we're not going to do a string. There we go. We got a collection. So let me put that up there. So now we ask the question. And let me see. Is this one connected? It's not connected to this one, right? This answer candidate.
Because that's inside of the for loop.
Right, well, it's because it's not spelled correctly. We just got candidate answer.
Yeah,
oh, we need the S.
There we go. So
that's what somebody else said earlier, yeah.
Yep, so now let me see if it's still connected.
Jumping ahead, my bad.
So now it's being stored in candidate answers. And now if I go ahead and I console log candidate answers, I want to see if that's working. So now I'm going to go up here because you always want to test your code to make sure stuff is working. So I'm going to go ahead and just abbreviate my name. So I'm just going to just put anything in here because I want to go through it quick. You see it? I know that it's being stored. So it's being stored, right? And it says that is not correct because it's going through the for loop that I have in the next function. So now we got to go to the next part. So now we know, let me go ahead and comment this out. We know that candidate answer is being stored up here in candidate answer. It should be inside that array. So I should be able to get access to it when it's time for me to do what? So we're now at number 3. So replace your code to okay, so now we're at 1.2c. So go ahead and read 1.2c for me, Beasia.
It says replace the basic feedback from to do 1.2c with a template literal that displays each of the candidates' responses in addition to the corresponding correct answers.
It said basic, didn't it? When you hear basic, what are you thinking? It doesn't have to be complicated, right? So what can I do here? I want to use a template literal. I want to print. It says replace the basic feedback from 1.2c with a template literal that displays each of the candidates' responses in addition to the corresponding correct answer. So what can I write? It's not really complicated. We don't have to do nothing big and fancy. I just want to give it what it's at. Go ahead.
I'm not sure about this. I know how to make a template literal. You start with the little tilde of just under the escape.
It's a little tick.
Yeah, so you would put that down, but I'm not quite certain how to pull their. So I'm not quite certain. So I guess I would say I know that there's the $sign and the squiggly lines to add correct or candidate answers. I know that that's supposed to be there because that stores the candidate answers, but I don't quite know what that sentence, the structure of that sentence should be.
Well, anybody else want to help her?
Yeah, I used push.
Say it again?
I used push to push the answer into the array.
That's a possibility, but there may be, just for this part 2, maybe even a simpler way. Let's see if this will work.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I did console.log.
There we go. That's one.
And I did the backticks.
Mm-hmm.
And I put your answer, colon, and then I did the $, then the curly brackets, and then I put candidate answers. And then I did new line because I wanted it on a separate line. Correct answer. Colon.
So the first one of your answers would be the candidate answers, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to do this, try this. Okay. And then you said a new line, right?
Yeah.
Y'all see that syntax that I'm doing with the new line?
Yeah.
And then I did the correct answer before the next one. Yeah. Correct answer, colon. Then the $, correct answers.
All right, let me get that. Where you at? I'm at 1.2 BC. All right, here we go. Where am I at? All right, there we go. And what did you put at? You put something?
I did bracket notation, right? Then after the correct answers, I put bracket notation, then did put I. And that was.
You put the I right here?
No.
You didn't put the I right there? Okay.
No.
So that's what you did?
Yeah.
All right, let's run it.
But it might not run correctly because it's outside of that function.
All right, so I'm going to do Sally Ride. True. 40. Trajectory. 3. Okay, so let's see what it says here. I is not defined.
Yeah, it's outside of that function, so I would have to put it inside that other function for it to work, right?
Put it inside the other function and for it to work?
Yeah.
Or we want to take it inside what function? This function up here?
Yeah, with the for loop.
Is it
outside of it?
It's outside that for loop, because we never established a correct answer with an array, right? Inside of a for loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is no correct answer inside of a for loop up here, right?
Right.
We got candidates answers.
Wait, what?
Do we need to add correct answers inside of the for loop?
The correct answers up here? Did it ask us to do that?
I don't think
I forgot. I had made another variable at the top, correct answers, and then I made an array and I initialized it with the array with the correct answers.
You said correct answers up here that's already initialized with an array?
There. Yeah.
So what did you do down here? Because I shouldn't have to do that now. I should be able to get access to it because it's global. So let's do this. Let me do this. Let me see. Correct answer. Is it even reaching up there? Is it pulling anything from it? So it is connected.
Whatever I did, it worked, but I can't remember exactly how.
Okay, let's look at it. So a couple of things we can do here. So we got the correct, we got the variable, but it says that I. So let's take that out because it's not. I is not declared. So So it gave me all the correct answers, but I'm missing your answers because I didn't need the bracket on there right now because it's already the answers to correct. Because all I have to do is print out the correct answers and compare it to your answers. But you notice that that's not showing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, I think it was Hannah. Hannah said something Was you talking about the candidates' answers, Hannah?
Yeah, I pushed them into the candidate. I pushed the candidate answer into the array candidate answers.
Okay. All right. Where did you put yours? Let's see. Where did you push it from? Did you push it from this for loop right here, or did you push it later? Because the question is asked up here, right?
Yeah, I did it right there. What I did was candidate answers equal to, candidate answers assigned
or initialized
to the array containing all the each answer as it iterates.
So how did you write that?
I think I did it the bad way because it was so lengthy, but finally I was like, okay, at least it has it. So what I did was let candidate let A1 equal to, and I put the answer. Oh my goodness, I don't know the bad way.
That's okay. That's okay. Let me show you the easy way then.
Thank you.
All right, she's on the right path. First of all, I don't want to do candidate answers right here. I want to just do the candidate answer. And then what I want to do is I want to push it. And I want to pass my candidate answer into candidate answer. That's how I'm going to push it into the array. Now, whatever answers that I type is going to be pushed into candidate answers, and I'm storing that as a variable. So now I'll have access to it outside of this function, because right now it's just local to that function. So if I go up here, so this is all I have to do with part 2. All I had to do was, we're not checking if they're correct. We just want to make sure I'm able to output the information. Oh, so let me see, what did I do wrong? So candidate answers said push candidate answer to push the candidate answers. It's telling me type error candidate answer push is not a function. So I didn't do that right. So whenever you see that error, type of I'm not doing that right. So let me go back up here, and I got to do this correctly. So I have candidate answers that I'm storing it in, and I want to push. Let me do this. I don't have to spell it. I just want to make sure it's been pushed in. What's it? True. 40. Trajectory. I know it's wrong. 3. There we go. So it's stored. Go ahead.
I was going to say, once you finish this, can I send you my replit so you can see what I did?
Sure. So
could you go back, please, to the for loop, because you made a change. Okay, so you're right there. So you changed. You took candidate answers out of the. You said candidate answer is assigned input questions and then underneath that for candidate answers, it's just candidate answers dot push into candidate answer. So it doesn't have the assignment or the
right. I didn't have the assignment
to upload.
Right. So you saw. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure my mic didn't go out again. You understand that you saw the error. When I saw the error type of, and it was telling me, push, dot push is not a function type error, I knew I wasn't using it correctly. So I had to go back up and say, okay, I'm not using this correctly. I didn't have to assign it to another variable. All I had to do was just push it onto candidate answers. Candidate answers is an empty array. And I wanted to, when I asked the questions, every time I answered the question, it got stored. That's why I use answer, because each one was broken down to a single question, right? Every time I was asked a single question. So that's why it became an answer. So I took that one answer and then I pushed it into candidate's answer. And every time I answered it, and because I have the questions dot length, I'm just only going to ask those 5 questions. I didn't ask any other questions. And so at the end of it, that's why I have the bracket notation I. You have the bracket notation I here to get access to this, to now this variable I, which is the index. That's why I was doing the console.log I, so you can see that each question was an index. And then it stored it inside the candidate answers for me. So now I have an array of answers that are stored right now in candidate answers. So for me to get access to it, I didn't have to write a whole lot of different code. I just had to broke it down to where it's simple. And then I got access to it here. But before I did that, before it was pushed into candidates answers, remember, it didn't show anything because there was nothing stored in the empty array. I didn't push anything into the empty array. This is something you want to remember because you may come across this again, or you will come across it again, is how to get information into an array. You want to push stuff into your array. Make sense? But remember how most arrays work.
Yeah, can you go back up to your let candidate answers and the empty array that you have? Did you back? Yeah, so right there. So your array is still empty, and I guess maybe I will just need to talk to a tutor privately or something, because my answers are coming up as array boxes, and they're not quite doing that, even though my code looks similar to yours. So I'm not quite doing something right, but I do see what you're saying.
Okay, let's test it. Let me do this. Let me put the console.log right here. Okay, so let me X out of here. Let's run it. So it gave me that empty array. It's letting me know it's an empty array right now because remember it's sequential. And so it gives me my answers. It started off as an empty array. Now, when I get down here to my candidate answers, it's not giving it to me in an array because what did I do? I pushed them individually, their actual strings. It's just giving me what's inside of it now, as opposed to actually printing out the array. Now, what you can do is real quick, before we go over part 3, because I want to make sure we understand what y'all doing, share your screen so we can walk over. So I'm going to give you both of y'all a chance to share your screens so we can see, especially all of y'all. If we got time, it's up to y'all how long we be here. Let's go and let's look at your screens to make sure you did it right. So I'm going to stop sharing. Now go ahead and share your screen, Beasia, and then I think
I want to.
Jerron, yeah, he wants to share his too. So let's look at it and let's see what we can fix. All right.
Okay.
So let me move
it over, make it larger. So at the top of my screen.
Yeah, let's go all the way to the top. Let's go all the way to the top and we will work
all the way to the top. So, we've got. Is that the top? No, there we go. Our read line sync. We've got our candidate name.
That needs to be an empty string.
Where?
On line 6.
Line 6?
Yep.
Huh. Because this is from part 1.
No, you put it in the wrong place. You were supposed to put that in one where we asked your name, candidate's name. So this should be an empty string. No, it's got to be an empty string. You got to initialize it as an empty string.
Oops.
Oh. All right.
And then
put your semicolon at the end. Put your semicolon at the end of the string. Of the string. There you go. All right. So there you go. So we got the let question, the correct answer.
Correct answer. And then we've got the candidate answers, and it's an empty string.
And you're missing something. You're missing some variables.
I think they were further down because I ended up moving them.
Yep, you shouldn't have moved them. Keep them up there.
So the candidate answer needs to be moved.
The candidate answers is already up there, but the correct answer need to be up there. The correct answers. Not answers. Yeah, the correct answers and the questions, they should be up at the top.
So the line 31 through 33?
Yeah, they should be at the top. Those are your globals.
But they're at the top with empty strings or arrays, correct?
Right, because these are your global variables. So just do Control X or Command X. So that's a shortcut to cut.
Oh, to cut. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to do, and this stores it to your clipboard. So do you do Command or Control X?
Okay.
There you go. Now scroll back up. There you go. Right up top, on top of right there on line 11. Go to line 11 and paste it in Control or Command V as in Victor. There you go.
So they weren't global? Was that the problems? I thought they were.
Because they were global when you got the code, but you moved them.
Okay.
When you moved them, because when we gave you the starter code, they were global. And remember when I typed them out, everything was global. Now remember how I typed out mine so it can be more readable? I put everything on its own line.
You want me to do that? Yeah, everything got its own line.
Yeah. Put it on so it can be more readable. Get in the habit of doing that.
Yeah, everything got its own line on yours.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to get used to that as you become more and more comfortable as a developer.
Where
you
is
got
that?
one. There it is. And then put that bracket on its own. Put the bracket on its own line. There you go. In the same way with the answers. Show you another trick real quick. Just don't fix anything. I'm going to show you something.
Okay.
Go ahead. Now keep going. Do the trajectory, and do the 3, and then put the what's the name on its own line. Now right click inside there. Right click. Yeah, just right click.
Right here.
Yeah, anyway, just right. Now go to where it says Format Document. Go up to Format Document. There's the shortcut Shift Alt F to format your document. Click on it. You see how I format your
document? Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Everybody needs to do that. Always format your document. Make sure it's always formatted correctly. Okay. So
Kansas that. Okay.
All right. So let's move down. So now here you're supposed to ask the question. See, you got everything. If you follow the instructions, you got everything.
Don't move anything that wasn't your code.
Right.
I didn't touch anything that wasn't my code.
Yes, you did. You touched those variables.
Did I?
Yeah, you moved those variables. And then also, too, the hello console, that's supposed to be down on 1.c, I believe. Where you asked the hello, you didn't move anything, you just put it in the wrong place. And this is where you want to learn how to follow the directions so you can get the right output. So look at the instructions.
For the
assignment instructions.
I don't think I have them posted here, but I do have them right here.
Just look at them and read it. Just read it. Go back to your Repler, your candidate test auto grader. Go over to that tab. There it is right there. Now read the questions to make sure everything is in the right place.
Okay, so from the top it says modify your
not those questions. The one that remember what I was reading?
Yeah, from the
textbook
assignment.
The textbook. Because it tells you where to put everything. Part 1 is
name in part 1.1a is asking for the candidate's name.
Okay, so let's go down. Well, we did the empty string, but now you got to ask the question though. You haven't asked the question. Remember, we moved that. We got rid of that and made that an empty string. So right there, it says, so in the workbook is saying 1.1b ask candidate's name.
Ask for candidate's name. Yeah.
We need to put yes, we need to put that inside there or under the to-do. You can put it under the to-do. And you got your code outside of your functions.
So maybe I need to like just talk through this with someone else so I don't waste everybody's time. Well,
let me ask you this: does everybody else code? Was everybody else code matching my code? Because this is a way for us to fix your code, and other people can follow along just in case they had the exact same problem.
Okay.
I don't have the exact same problem, but it's helpful to go through line by line to see.
Yes, that's it.
Into.
Well, who will say something? Somebody else was saying something.
So my function ask for name was also above 1.1b.
All right. So we're gonna correct this. We're gonna clean this so it can look like my code. So it can be how we sent it to you. We want to so you can know how to follow the instructions. All right, Hannah, you were saying something too.
I just said yes, because I can see some of the mistakes I made.
All right, cool. So we're gonna learn by using your code. Be Asian. So what I want you to do, I want you to get rid of some of that space on line 30 and 31. Get rid of that space. Let's get that to do with it. There we go. Now I want you to put your cursor behind the comment on line 30. On line 30, at the end of line 30, put your cursor at the end and hit enter. Now ask the question. How are you going to ask the question?
So I'm asking the question, who is the first?
No, you're asking their name. You're asking for their name.
I'm just going to console log. Can you tell me your name?
You sure?
No, hold on. Let's see. I already have candidate names stored.
No, we made it an empty string, so you got to do it now. You got to do it there.
Okay.
You got to type it in. No, not there. We got to do it inside the function. So remember, how do you input a question?
Oh, that's right.
So get rid of the console log. Get rid of the console log altogether. And remember, no, but first we got to store it in a variable. What's the name of the variable?
Candidate name.
There you go. Put candidate name and don't put the letter on it because it won't connect. Remember,
name the question. Input question.
Okay, so now if we run this, we know your code is going to blow up because you got stuff all over the place and we got to clean this up for you. So far we've got ask for name. So we know that if we ask for the candidate name, it's going to be stored inside that variable. What is the next on part one? What is the next thing you're supposed to do?
The next thing you're supposed to do is underneath it, write a message to the console that greets the user using the name you just provided. And did make it.
Not underneath it. Read it again.
Look for to do 1.1c.
There we go. Now but we got to first go to 1.1c. You were writing, find 1.1c. There you go, right there.
And it has the wrong thing there.
Yeah, so you're going to get rid of it. 1.1c, not 2.
That's 1.2.
Yeah, keep going.
I don't even see 1.1c.
Go all the way down, keep going down. There it is, right there. See? There you go.
So that's line 73.
Yeah, that's line 973. Now this is what, remember how...
I have this too far up because I have...
You got it in the wrong place. Remember, everything is sequential.
Yeah, I have this.
You don't even have that inside of a function. None of that is even in a function. All of that's got to be deleted.
Oh my Lord. So that's where it belongs.
Yep, and format your code.
console log.
No, remember what I said. Right click.
And then format.
Yeah, format document. Yeah, there you go. So now we ask the question. So it's the greeting now. Hello, candidate name. And then you concatenated everything, right? And then you added a new line, which you don't need that other concatenation. Matter of fact, you don't need to put that inside of quotes. If you're going to put a new line, just put the new line.
Okay.
And that's a \n.
Do you think it needs a new?
No, you don't need it. I just thought that. Now let's go back and read the book again. What does it say? What's the next step?
Now we're at 1.2. Ask the user to answer a single quiz question. Look for to do 1.2.
There you go.
And below the to do comment, define variables. So I need to just make sure that under 1.2a,
go there.
Variables are in the right place.
Yeah, but go there. Go to 1.2a.
1.2a.
Now, this is something I want to show you. 1.2a is at the top. It's for your variables. There it is. And so you already asked the question. They're in the right place. But now scroll down because there's some stuff we got to delete because you got it all in the wrong place. Let me show y'all something here. Go ahead and scroll up a little bit. Bring line 29 up to the top. Scroll down to line 29. All right, stop. Yeah, stop right there. Look at this. Understand that we asked the question, right? We asked, that's a function, ask for name. You have an opening in curly brace. Here, I'm going to show you, here, I'm going to put something up here in my annotation so you can see what I'm talking about with your code. All right, so here, this is, y'all see my little annotation?
Yes.
That's an opening curly bracket. This is a closing curly bracket. Now, look at line 46 right here. That's another function. You got all of this stuff right here outside from, this is all global. We don't want that to be global. We want that to be inside of a function.
Okay.
So all of that shouldn't be outside of a function. That should be inside of a function. That makes sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now, what was the next part? It says do what? Ask what? What it says the next part? We created the question. We created the answer for the single one. So what's the next thing?
The question should be initialized to the following string. Who was the first American woman in space?
Okay, so and where is that supposed to be at?
That is supposed to be under 1.2a.
So let's go to 1.2a. Scroll down to 1.2a.
I think it's up, but I think
there it is right there. You just passed it.
Right.
There's
1.2b.
Right, 1.2a. Scroll up. Well, scroll down.
Yeah, oh, there it is. 1.2a.
All right, so we've already asked the question and we got the correct answer. So what's next?
After that, it says the correct answer should be initialized to Sally. Right.
But where's it supposed to be at? What section?
It's supposed to be in 1.2a still.
So we did that. We got the question and the correct answers. Okay, so go on.
And then the candidate answer should be an empty string, but that should be attached to 1.2a as well. And the candidate answer is far up. It's not here.
All right, so we got to go down with it.
Well, but
that's answers. We need candidate answer. Okay. So we need to go find the candidate answer in your code down there because you put it down, you move the variable down. So let's look for that variable. Candidate answer.
There's candidate answer.
Yep. So
line 35.
All right. So what we want to do, well, we don't need the whole thing. Just go ahead and get candidate answer. Take the let too. Get the let. Just copy the let.
Let candidate answer.
Mm-hmm. Copy that. And then take that back up there to the top.
Copy was Control X, you said?
Well, cut. it's Control X or are you on a Windows or a PC or a Mac?
I'm on Windows.
Oh yeah, so it'll be Control X is to cut it out, and it copies it to the clipboard, and all you got to do is paste it. But if you want to just copy it, it's Control C, as in Charlie.
Okay, so it's Control C, and it needs to go back up to 1.2A.
Yep. It needs to go back up there, right there, line 10. Paste that in. Now get rid of your space on line 10, and then go ahead and initialize it with an empty string. Semicolon.
Okay.
There we go. So now we got the candidate answer as an empty string. So we're good. So now what's the next thing that you got to do?
Now we are at 1.2B.
Let's go to 1.2B. Scroll down to 1.2B.
Okay.
What does it say?
It says, using your question variable, display the question and prompt the candidate for their answer, store their response in one of the variables you defined just above.
Okay, now we ain't gonna worry about that because we already fixed this. We already changed it, remember, because we added it to the for loop. But scroll up a little bit because we got to move some stuff because you got a lot of stuff that's outside of a function. Keep going up. Yep, all of that, keep going up. Oh, hold on, let me see, hold on, you're right there. So here, all of this right here to down here, you want to get rid of that. Go ahead and delete all of that.
Okay. And this too.
And the curly brace too. This one right here. Get rid of that. All right, that's good. All right, so we just want to clean this stuff up. So now we already got this fixed. So what else in 21? The first part. Did we do everything everything in the first part should be done?
Yeah.
So let's look at the part 2. Start at the top and read.
Okay. So part 2 says, now that your small app is working, expand it to deal with multiple questions. So this is the part with this time you only have one to-do item in the starter code. You need to determine which lines need to be modified. The first thing is to define questions and correct answers, variables as arrays, and use the table below to fill that in.
Okay, so we did all of that.
Yes, we did.
All right, scroll down a little bit. Let me look at your code and make sure it's cleaned up. All right, council dialogue answer. Well, your answer, then you want to put the correct answer, right? On line 51. 51.
This is where I was trying to follow your conversation with Jerron, I think, and what he was doing with line 51.
Yeah, so now right before, so right there before the $, before correct answers, put your cursor in.
I see I have correct answers twice.
You got candidate answers and correct answers.
Oh, candidate, incorrect, okay.
Yeah, so put your cursor in between the $ of correct answers, right there. And then I want you to just type the correct answer. Just type correct answer with a colon.
Okay.
And I will put the space. I get rid of the space and put the correct close to the end because it's going to have a space once you.
Okay.
All right. So now let's go ahead. Yeah, right there. Now let's go ahead and pull up let's go ahead and run it on your console. Go ahead and run it.
So scared to run it. Okay, let's see.
Let's see what we get. Go ahead. Here, you might want to make this bigger by pulling this over so everybody can see it a little bit better.
Okay.
You see where there you go. All right, so go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
See, it comes up with this bracket, and I don't think the bracket is supposed to be there.
Correct, because we got something else in your code that we need to move. So let's scroll up. So it's asking the questions. So we look at the questions. Let's scroll down. I don't see anything there. Keep going down a little bit. Keep going. Candidate answers. Let's see. Hold on. We asked the name. Now let's ask the question. We asked the candidate answer. Okay, you got a console.log right there. Get rid of 41. All right, run it now. Exit and run it now.
Oops, let me fix that so it doesn't run wrong.
It doesn't matter, because we just want to make sure it's running.
Oh, but it is running.
Yeah.
So no matter what I put, it's
it's
still
going to run. Yeah, it's just wrong, but it's going to run.
So I think I had that too. So in 1.2b, I have under the for loop and everything, I have a console.log candidate answers. Do I need to take that out?
Yeah, you don't need the console.log in there. We just use it to
once
test.
I got rid of that, yeah, then the structure was right.
But now we're not. Your candidate answer is not giving you all the answers. So let's scroll down.
Line 40 should be candidate answers, right?
Now we're going to do candidate answer because we're going to push all of your candidate answer into candidates answers. So that's why we're pushing it. So we're pushing it, but it's not pulling. It didn't give me all my candidate answers, right? So
mine was running somewhat, but when I took out that console.log, now it automatically says there's an error.
It does? Okay, we'll look at yours in a minute just to see what's wrong. So let's scroll down. So we got console.log, candidate answers, and candidate answers. Candidate answers and correct answers. So candidate answers, we're pushing candidate answers to candidate answers with an S, and then we're calling it down here. So what I'm trying to see is, are we missing something? Why it didn't give me all that? Do I need to go ahead on candidate answer right here?
Down there.
Yeah, go ahead and put, because we got candidate, put your bracket I.
Okay.
Let me see if that's what I'm missing. You're missing, I mean. No, square bracket, yeah. And then make sure you put it in curly bracket because you erased it. You got to open the curly bracket, you need to end in curly bracket right there. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
All right, so run it now. Let me see. All right, like I said, you just type anything in it just to go through it real quick. All right, so answer is undefined. All right, so let's get rid of the bracket. So that's not our problem. What we're missing here, and I'm trying to see what we're missing. Okay, you need to initialize on your for loop. You need to initialize that to let I is not initialized, or yeah, you didn't declare it. All right, so I less than questions dot length da 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 da. So now let's exit and let's run it now. All right. All right, so it's getting the age. Well, we got to figure out how come all of them are not printing. So what are we missing? Hold on. Let me see my code real quick.
Is it where she pushed the candidate answer to candidate answers? Does that need to go inside that first bracket?
Yes. Good catch. Yes. It's got to be within that. Yes, all you got to do is highlight it and control X. And now control V, as in Victor. These are the shortcuts. You'll get used to them. And then now you want to format that. Yep. And learn the shortcut for that. And then you be typing fast. All right, so let's do it now. There you go.
Okay.
All right. Yeah,
so it shows all of my answers in a row, and then it shows all of the correct answers.
Right. So now we're going to get to the third part in a minute. But first, since we got yours working, you want to use...
Huh? Yeah.
Did you want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, you stop sharing, and then Jerron wants to share his screen.
Okay.
And then we're
Thank you so much. I need to get better at making sure I'm more sequential with like the directions in that code.
That's right.
That's the main problem.
Yeah, this is why I want y'all to read the directions good, because we're telling you. Okay, Jerron, let's see yours.
So I did everything like under where it's supposed to be except for the last one.
Okay.
So we could just skip to that.
Well, you need to get rid of those parentheses. I mean, those quotes inside of your empty array on line 17. Line 17.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Okay. Where was I at? Okay, this is what I was saying that I did, and
I did that too, Jerron.
But it looks differently. So
yeah, it'll work. The reason why it works is you got it locally, but that's not what we want you to do.
You wanted it down here.
That's right. We want it down there. So what you did? Yeah, go ahead and put your line 30. Take your line 30. Yeah, it's going to work, but we want it to be where we want you to put it. So put line 30 inside on line 37. So cut that out. Cut it out. Whoever else has did it this way, are you paying attention? You seeing it? So it's are you on a Mac or a PC?
Mac.
Yeah, so yours is Command X. And then it's going to be Command V as in Victor to paste it in. Now, let's go back up. All right, so right there where we asked the question where we took it from. So we want to, you see, the thing is when you're storing those answers, you're not going to be able to push it inside. This is why you weren't able to get access to candidates' answers. It's because you never pushed it inside the array. So you got to push that. That's why I say make it candidate answer, and then you want to push candidate answer into the candidates array, which is plural. So now this is why you want to push it. On line 30, do candidate first turn candidate answers that's plural to singular. So you want to keep the regular candidate answer. Now you want to go to line 30, and then you want to go candidate answers. Dot push. Nope. You want to just do dot push. And now you want to pass in candidate answer singular. Now it's being stored in that array. Don't forget your semicolon. Now it's being stored in that array. Now stop it and run it.
Do I have to change something down here?
I don't know. Let's run it first and see. Yeah, you shouldn't have to, but let's see. Go ahead and stop it. Run it.
Oh.
All right, so we got an arrow, so let's scroll up a little bit to see what we're missing. You have to go over a little bit and go to your define. I want to look in the console. Yeah, I want to see what the error is in console. There you go. All right, so we got a reference error. I is not defined, which is where we have it in the correct answer. So get rid of that. Yep, you don't need it there because it's not defined. Now run it again. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
So if I didn't have these specific instructions, I could have did it the other way.
Yeah, if you didn't have to sit there, and that's what we want. We want you to follow the instructions. And then also too, when you get the functions, we're going to tell you functions need to only do one thing. They work better when you do, well, they don't work, but they work. We want you to just, best practices is to allow your function to do one thing. And if you have to create more functions to make it work, it's better to do it that way as opposed to putting everything in one function, if that makes sense. But you'll find that out when you see chapter 10. We'll go over that.
Okay.
All right, then. Yep, next person, go ahead and share your screen. Rachel, is it Rachel? Yes. You see it at the bottom? That big green button at the bottom says share screen. Are you on mute? Or is it just so I can't hear you?
All right, there we go.
Okay. Yeah, it's right there at the bottom. The big. There you go. Okay. All right. Let's see. What is yours not doing? You must got more than one screen, Rachel.
Yeah, I can see her code.
Yeah, Rachel, you got more than one screen. You gotta share the screen that's showing. Yeah, so stop sharing, and then when it gives you the option, share the screen that has the code on it. Hey, yeah, we kicking it today. Now this video probably ain't gonna be ready until about tomorrow morning because it's gonna probably take 9 hours for this video to render.
I've got. Are you talking about because I have the terminal on top and the console on bottom?
No, how many screens do you have? 1 or 2 or 3?
3, but I pulled this over to the screen where my Zoom.
Right, you don't have to stop sharing. Stop sharing it and then reshare it.
Oh, stop share. Okay, stop share.
Right. Yeah, now share it again, but make sure you share the screen that's showing the code.
Okay.
No pressure, you'll find it.
Hey, we gotta learn, y'all. Trust me. There you go. We're gonna learn how to work this.
Like,
all right, cool.
You know how to type, but when someone's watching you type?
Yeah.
It's a different story, isn't it?
I was going to say thank you, Beasia, for being willing to go through that because I feel like
It was so terrifying.
a lot of pressure.
All of you know.
I was after you said, "Oh, I'll just do it on my own," and I was like, "Oh, she probably doesn't want everybody watching her go through it."
That's the joys of learning. Put you on the spot. I bet you remember. You'll start saying, I'm gonna remember this because I don't want him putting me on the spot. That's how you learn better.
Absolutely.
All right. So let me look at yours. So what is it that yours is doing? That's how yours is doing it.
Mine is doing Bash. I don't know where Bash came from.
That's okay. We're gonna fit. We're in console. All right. So make your terminal a little bit smaller so we can see your code. Yeah, there it is right there. Up, go down. We want to make the terminal smaller. Make the terminal smaller.
Other way.
There you go. All right, so let's start from the top. So let's look and see. And if anybody sees some errors, shout them out. All right, so let me see. She has her empty string. She has her questions. All right, let's scroll up a little bit. Let's look at the first function. All right, the first function, we ask the question, what is your name? That looks right. Let's go down to ask the question, ask the question, because I'm country. All right, get rid of the equal sign on line 38. I said the equal sign, so you're supposed to correct me. Get rid of the assignment operator. There we go. Now let's run it. And that's probably was your first problem. Let's pull it up, pull the console up a little bit. Clear out your console. Go ahead and clear it first. You know how to clear it down here at the bottom in the black, that little X? Yeah, there we go. Now run it. All right, let's go. All right, so you got still that array, so you got a console.log in there somewhere. And then your answer is undefined. So, okay, let's scroll down. Let's go ahead and make the console smaller. So let's see what else we got here. So we knew that one thing fixed it. So you got that console log. Yeah, let's get rid of the console log because you don't need that.
So that's where I had it in there, and that stuff came up, and then when I took it out, then I got an error.
That's okay. We're going to fix that.
And I need to get rid of this bracket.
Oh, no. That's your closing bracket. We need that.
Oh, I thought this was the...
Now, that's for your for loop. That's the closing bracket for the for.
Okay, so maybe that's why it errored. Because I took that out when I...
Are you still hitting enter?
Yeah.
Yeah, you went a little too fast. Go ahead and clear your console again. Clear your console.
Okay.
All right, now run it. Yeah. And this is just for testing. The reason why I just running through it a little fast. There you go. And now you got undefined on the correct answer. So let's fix that. So let's pull the terminal down so we can see where your space is. So we can have some more room. All right, so let's scroll up the function. Let's scroll up, slow it down a little bit. No, we don't want to go to the top. We can go down. We're going to go to the next function. We got ask name, ask question. That looks right. Now the function, go scroll down a little bit. All right, hold on. All right, so let's look here. So console.log, candidate answers, correct answers. All right, let me see. Scroll up to the top. Let's look at that. Hold on, correct answers. Did we spell it right? Scroll down a little bit. Correct. All right, scroll up to the top to see if that's correct, if we spelled it right at the top. All right, so correct answers. All right, so let's see. Let's look at the code. Let's see what we're doing, what we're missing here. Why is correct answers undefined? So scroll down.
I need an equal sign?
Nope.
No.
No, yes, you do. Not an equal sign, but you need.
I missed assignment.
There you go.
Assignment operator.
So do I need to get rid of this? I need to get rid of that.
That's it. You gotta get rid of that and put the assignment operator. There you go. Now let's run it. There you go. So now you are now at part 2 done. How about anybody else have problems? Now you can stop sharing. Your code looks good. And then I'm going to walk y'all through part 3. Because I know y'all going to have questions. So this is really the big finale. So anybody else want to share anything before we move on?
I want to share, but the thing is, I was so confused with all the questions. I made up my own questions, and
well, go ahead and share your screen, because you may not be the only one. One thing I have to understand: sometimes you feel like you're the only one that's doing certain things. You come to find out other people are dealing with the same thing. This is why we're recording this, so that somebody else that may be having the exact same problem gets the solution. So go ahead and share your screen.
okay.
And y'all been hanging in. We've been up since 8 o'clock, y'all. All right.
I see in all sorts of companies.
Hold on. Scroll all the way down to the bottom for me. Scroll all the way back down to the bottom. Yeah, close that for me. Scroll all the way back down to the bottom. Let me see something here. Okay, you've been touching stuff. You deleted some stuff.
No, this was in the index.js. I didn't mess with the...
Okay, you need to be in the wrong file then. You're in the wrong file. No, open up your file. Yeah, open it.
Worried about...
Yeah, go. Yeah, you're supposed to be in this file. So scroll down. Okay, everything is there. You don't need all this. Okay, all this stuff in the index.js, we want to delete all of that. So let's go back to your index.js.
Okay.
All right, hold on for a second. I'm about to tell you everything you need to delete. Give me 1 second. All right, you should only have 3 lines of code. You should have, all right, so go all the way up there to the top. Let me see the top of your code. Okay, go to 1. I can't see 1. Go all the way up to line 1. Yeah, go all the way up to line 1. All right, so only thing you need to have in here, we need, all right, so you need to change that. So what you need to do for line 1, you need to do const quiz, and we're going to assign that to required candidate testing.
Oh, okay.
On line one, type this. As a matter of fact, you can see my chat, right?
Yes.
I'm getting ready to put it in chat for you. This is what we need left. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you what to do. I'm going to make it real simple.
Okay.
All right, I want you to copy that code that's inside there, inside the chat. Yep, go to chat. You see it, copy it. Let me know when you got it copied.
Oh boy.
And all you got to do is highlight everything that's on the chat that I sent you, and just do. You're on a Mac or a PC?
I'm on Windows.
All right, do Control C, as in Charlie. Do Control C. Highlight that little code that I gave you and do Control C, as in Charlie. You let me know when you did that.
But where is the chat? I can't even see the chat.
All right. Look down at the bottom. You might have to scroll, what I'm trying to say. You might have to take your mouse down at the bottom for it to pop up, and then it's going to have chat next to the share screen.
Oh, okay.
Let me know if you see it.
Can you slap me? I can't see the chat.
Oh, you can't see the chat? Okay, here then. Let me do that then. Let's make it life easier for you. I will Slack you, okay?
Thank you so much.
No problem. And this is Hannah, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, don't be sorry. Don't apologize, because we all learning. Trust me. Oh, man, what's my Slack? Oh, okay. Hold on for a second. Hold on. Yep. Give me a second, because I need to move that out the way.
Oh, I see the chat now. It's on the top. Oh.
Oh, okay. You moved it around. Okay, you got your chat. I just want you to. That's okay. Just select that and do Control C, as in Charlie. Let me know when you did it.
I did Control C.
All right. Now, what I want you to click right there. Click inside. Now, I want you to do Control A. Do Control A.
Yes.
Now, do Control V, as in Victor. There you go. That's what you're supposed to have.
Thank you.
All right. So now, let's get out of that file. Let's get back into candidate testing.
Okay.
Now, okay, scroll up. Okay, yeah, you wrote a list. You created a. Okay, that's okay. So were you following what we were doing? Now, and this is important, everybody. And the reason why we're taking our time is because you're not the only one that probably did something like this. So let's go back to the questions. You go back to your Replit.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So you got the first line. Now we gotta get what they asked you to do. We're gonna go ahead and all of that from line 4 to line 8. Let's delete that. Line 4 to line 8, delete it. All right. So now, so the next thing is back in candidate name on line 6. What are you supposed to do right there? On line 6, you're supposed to do what? There we go. All right. So now on line 8 and 9, now this is where you put the first question. Go ahead and put the first question in there. And you can go back to the workbook if you can't see it, if you need to go to it.
Yes.
Yeah, and get the question.
All right.
There you go. Make sure this is a space and a closing quote. All right, put a space in between the question mark and the, there you go. There you go. Now, put in the correct answer. Put in the correct answer. And I see what you did. But yeah, you did it the long way around.
Yes,
So
I was just testing. I was so scared that I might get it wrong, and I did all sorts of testings. And
that's okay. We're gonna clean you up here.
Thanks.
All right. So candidate answer. And that's supposed to be a empty string. Okay, now in the questions, now this is where you got to put each one of those questions in there correctly. So go back to the assignment and get all the questions. And then, there you go. And then put them on its own line.
Okay.
Yeah, put everything so it can be readable. So that who is, make sure hit enter in front of the quote on the string on line 11. On line 11, go to line 11 and put your cursor in front of the quote. I just want to show you how to format your code.
Oh, okay. here, right?
Mm-hmm. But go put the cursor in front of the quote on line 11. On line 11, yeah, there you go. On line there, go up. Nope, you need that bracket in there, and you need to get rid of that. Yeah, there you go. Now go up one. Yeah, just take it up one, because I want you to put it all on its own line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that. And then, like, who is the first American woman in space? I need you to put that on its own line. So go up to line 11. Yeah, there you go. Click that and hit enter. Yep, there you go. And then go ahead.
Take the other questions?
Yep, put the other questions in.
Okay. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm so sorry.
No, trust me. We all been here. Trust me. You know, I didn't have a mentor, so I made so many mistakes for so long. And so that's why I have compassion and I have patience, because I know how everybody feels. All right, put the other questions in. Because again, somebody's watching this video, all they have to do is fast forward past this if this is too slow for them, so they can fast forward and go to the information they want to go to.
Yes.
So go to the next one.
Last question.
Yep, last question. And then you need to make sure those are the correct answers after you put this last question in.
Okay.
All right, you don't need a comma on the last item of the array. So now you need to make sure those questions, you got the correct questions in there.
Yeah, who was the first American woman? I got them correct, right?
Yeah, you got the first question right. Now we need the correct answers.
Oh, okay.
So put Sally Ride on her own line so it can be readable.
Okay.
All right, now format your code. So right click inside there. Yeah, just right click. There you go. Then it goes to format document. Go up to format document. Click on that. And like I said, y'all can learn your shortcuts. So click it. There you go. It just formatted your code for you.
Wow. Why did
Yeah, that's why we here. We gonna learn. So all right, so let's go down here. So we got the candidate answers. All right, so we got ask the questions. So you got candidate input. That looks correct. Then we got the function questions. So all right, scroll down. So we want to delete all of this stuff. Because matter of fact, look at. All right, so let me show you. Let me show you something. So everybody get used to seeing this. All right, this is your opening curly bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is your closing curly bracket. Now, all of this stuff right here is not inside of a function. All of that stuff is now global. We don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So now what we want to do is, I want you to delete lines 36 to 40. Delete all of that. Yeah. No. Key. Yeah, all of that. Yeah. There you go. But we do this. Do Control Z again. Do Control Z. Control Z. I want you to. Okay, yeah, delete all of that. Yeah, delete all of it. Matter of fact, get rid of candidate answer line 35. That's got to go too. All right, now space in there. Keep it so you can be readable. Put a space in there. Now go inside the function question. Now you got to ask the question. What is the question?
Who's the first American woman in space?
Yep. So how do you write that?
Let's input that question.
But you got to store it in something.
Candidate answer.
Is that what did it ask you to loop over this? What was the question? I want to make sure.
Yeah, I think we need to loop over that.
Does it say you need a loop right here?
It just says.
No, you don't need a loop for this one because this is just a single question.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't need a loop for that. As a matter of fact, we're just following the first step because we got to make sure your code is in order. So one of the things you got to do is we got to go down to, you need a dot. Go down to 1.c. Scroll down to .1.c first. Let's make sure. All right, scroll up a little bit. There you go. You got to ask for the name. This is where you put that console.log, hello. And then you pass in the variable.
Okay.
All right, now we got to pass that variable in there, so you got to do the concatenation. And this is the candidate name, right?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, that should work. If you're having the problems, we know where to look. So right now we can't run because we got so many different things in your code we got to clean up first. All right, so let's go back up. This may, all right, so we want to ask the question. So candidate answer. So we want to input the question, right? So we want to do right there. Yeah, so we want to pass in question on, question. No, not that. We just want the variable. You don't need to pass in the string now. You just need the variable because you're storing the string inside of a variable. And the reason why you want to do that, because you only got to change it in one place as opposed to changing it everywhere in your code. This is a simple program, so you're not worried about that, but wait till you got like 50 files and you got that on 40 of them. You don't want to go through and change it in all 40 files. You just want to change it in one place. All right, so we got that. Let's go ahead and run this to see if it'll run, see what it'll give us.
I have all this.
All right, go ahead, put your name in. All right. All right, cool. So far, so good. So now we got that. I think we're in part 2 now, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go down to part 2. What does part 2 tell you to do? You got to loop over over the questions, right?
Yes.
So in 1.2b, we got to create that for loop now. So now create the for loop. Make sure you put an S on questions because it's plural. And now put your curly braces in there. Hit enter. Well, put it on the outside. You need a closing curly brace on line 35. Put your closing curly brace on line 35. Now you need one more. You need one more brace on line 36. There you go. So now it's closed. Now do format it. There you go. Now on your input question, you want questions now. So now that we're looping through it, remember we need an access operator the bracket notation, which is an access operator on the back of question. But remember, we're asking questions, not question. So you need to make that plural. You need to make that variable plural. You got it already up there. You already have it there. Now put that inside of right there. Put the S on it and then add the bracket notation. Add a bracket. There you go, because you want to get access to the index now. Now run it. put anything in here just so it can go through the cycle. And one more. There you go. So far, so good. So now we got to get our candidate answer inside of candidate answers. So on line, make a new line on line 34. Go to end of line 34. Go to end of line 34. Hit enter. Now we need to push into candidate answers. So candidate answers is your variable. There you go. Now, all of y'all seeing this like so many times, it should be sinking in your brain that next time when you run across this, when you remember what it does, don't remember the syntax because the syntax will confuse you. Remember how it works. So whenever you have an empty bracket, you know you want to, because that's an array, you know you want to push something into it. Remember? So remember, if the stuff is not getting put into your array, you know you didn't push it in. That makes sense?
Yeah.
All right. So now all we got to do is right there on line 41, we just get rid of line 41. Or get rid of that, get rid of 45 and 41. Get rid of 45 and 41. All you got to do is console log now. So get rid of line 41 through 45. Delete that. Now go ahead and do your template literal.
What should I say?
Say your answer. Say your answer. There you go. And then pass it in the candidate's answers. You don't need, because we haven't, it hasn't been declared because it's only in the other functions in scope. And like I said, when y'all go over functions, we're going to talk about scope. Now you got to stay inside your template literal. Stay inside your template literal. Go back in there. And then I want you to do a new line. Do a new line. So that's the back, in. And now say the correct answer. Or I say correct answer. Correct answer. And then pass in the variable correct answers. All right, run it. Bingo, you're good to go. So,
thank you.
You are welcome. All right, so we made it to part 2. Now we're getting ready to go over part 3. I'm going to walk y'all through this because definitely. Yeah, go ahead and stop sharing.
Oh no. Where is the stop sharing?
It should be either at the top or at the bottom. Here, I can stop it for you.
Oh, thank you.
There we go, y'all. Now y'all ready for this part 3? Yeah. Y'all been hanging in there. Oh boy, just think about when I first.
From spending so much time on it. Thank you.
Hey, y'all are welcome. I want to see y'all succeed.
Yes. I very much appreciate it. And I am learning from watching other people's
that's it.
Stuff.
You learn because a lot of times, sometimes you're missing what I'm doing. And you sometimes people don't want to speak up and say, I'm not getting the same information. It's not doing, they don't want to say anything. But the people like yourself, when y'all say something and we pull your code in and we work through it, somebody else is having the exact same issue that they were intimidated to speak up on. And sometimes they don't want nobody to think, I want them to know that I don't know what I'm doing or whatever the reason may be. But, it is because you're learning. And sometimes, you get intimidated because you don't want to seem like, you may be thinking in your mind, you're the only one that's not getting it. And that's not true. And even if you get the right result, you may figure out, I didn't do that the right way. I want to show you the right way to do it. Okay? Anybody else have any, everybody else code looking good? Because we're getting ready to go into 3. You're gonna have to change some stuff up. All right. All right. Let's make this happen. All right. Let me share my screen. All right. Y'all see me? See my screen? All right. We are back. All right. So I was sharing show you what that looks like. So let me get back into my candidate. All right. So here we go. Part 3. All right, I got to point out some things to y'all so y'all can make sure y'all following this. So again, remember, we got the acceptance criteria, right? This is our acceptance criteria right here. Now remember that?
Yes.
Now we're at part 3. This is your next task. This is the 3rd task. In part 3, I'm going to read this for you. Grade the quiz. This is the fun part because you're really going to have to play around with this. Now remember, you've already got your code working. Don't do too much change. You should only be working in this one right here, mostly right here. You shouldn't have to do too much change, and all your work should be done in the graded quiz section. You shouldn't have to come outside of that too much. And if you do, just remember that at one time you had it working, okay? And definitely don't change anything else. Don't change anything else. But I will give you some recommendations. So here we go. Finally, calculate the candidate's score and print the results. All right. That's the instruction right there. So you may be thinking you're going to need another variable here. But remember that word results. You may want to use a variable to store some results in. There are no to-dos in this section. Just be sure to only modify code that you have written or add code. Don't remove anything in the file that you haven't written. Doing so may cause your program to behave unexpectedly, and we may not be able to grade it. So here we go. Here's your task. Compare the candidate answer with the correct answer. So let me ask y'all this question. What should you be thinking when I say that? Go ahead and answer me.
We need a hard equals.
Yeah, so what is that called?
Comparison operator?
Yeah, but it's comparing something, we're calling those. When you compare something, there you go. Condition, but Boolean is correct, but a conditional is a Boolean. It's always giving back true or false.
False, yeah.
So here, if I'm comparing candidate's answer with the correct answer, I need to make sure that it's that I'm using a conditional. So you should be thinking conditional. That's one of the things. You might want to write down, okay, I'm going to need a conditional somewhere. You may need more than one condition. You might need a couple of for loops, just have that in the back of your mind. It says calculate the candidate's score as a percentage. Now here we go. Convey the candidate if they have passed the quiz with the 80% or if they have failed. Now, what should you be thinking here? If I'm comparing something, you've learned about conditionals. What kind of conditional can I use that can compare multiple things? So, or if?
Strictly equal. Like,
No, but let's keep it if. So I'm going to have an if, right? And then once it's true, it's going to do what? It's going to print out what's evident in that code block that's true, right?
yeah.
So the first code block is true. Now I got a second code block I need to do. I don't want to do an else because an else means that's the last thing, right?
Yeah.
But I may have to compare one more thing. What other conditional can I add right there?
Maybe an if else.
There you go. That's it. Else if. And this is remember, this is let me give you the boilerplate. This is what I call boilerplate code. This is your boilerplate. So, that would be the boilerplate. If you decided, if you need a multiple, especially if you're comparing something that's 80%, if I want to pass or fail, I'm going to need more than one else. I'm going to need an else if. I'm not just going to use an if. And that else if has to be stored inside of an if clause. So this if statement, if only goes with this if. So it's nested within the if. Okay, so that makes sense. So that's what you should be thinking when you're trying to compare if they passed or failed. You're going to need an if, else, if, and an else. That's a tip, okay?
Okay.
And the thing to calculate the candidate score as a percentage. And so you're going to have to calculate that score. This variable right here that they gave you a variable called let grade. I highly recommend that you put that at the top. You can move that and put that at the top. Because remember, you got a return grade. Now, you haven't looked at the function video. You need to look at that because I explained this to you on how the return statement works. You gotta get used to a return because you put it in the wrong place, it's not gonna work.
I have a really quick question, Terrence. Were we supposed to, so on Thursday, when they said, okay, you have Monday off, in my head, that meant that probably by Monday I needed to start reading chapter 10 so that I could
No. You're supposed to read chapter 10 on Thursday. That just passed. When I uploaded the videos.
Well, you uploaded the videos not Thursday, right?
Yeah, I did. I uploaded chapter 10 on Thursday.
You didn't go
On
over
Thursday
that.
after class.
Yeah, because we didn't go over that in studio.
You were supposed to do loops. Loops is what was due on Thursday. For Thursday, well, going into Friday and the weekend, if you would have had class on this Monday, you were supposed to have functions already read and done.
Right. Okay, I'm on track. I just wanted to check. Okay.
But you just got some extra time now. Because it's a holiday, you have extra time.
Yes.
Want the if statement, the if else statement, and the let grade variable to be above this console.log / answer.
You're going to want everything to be in between line 55 and what I have on this return. You want that return to be at the bottom. So whatever code blocks you make, you see how this if else have all these code blocks? You notice that this has, remember, you have to have an opening curly brace and a closing curly brace. That's your code block. This return, when you look at the videos, this closing one right here, when you look at the videos, your return has to be within the scope of this particular function. Because notice here, I have some stuff inside the function. I have this let grade. I have this if conditional. You're going to have a for loop because you're going to have to loop over this stuff. All of that has to be in between these two curly braces. But this return needs to be close to this closing curly brace. But look at the video so you can understand what I'm saying. Because if you put this in the wrong place, a return, it terminates the function.
Okay, I'm sorry, would you suggest then that if I haven't read chapter 10, that I just stop here and maybe pick this up after so that I don't get confused? Or because now I'm feeling late. So I might leave and then what I'll do is I'll go read chapter 10 and do that. And then I'll come back because you said this will probably be up in a couple days.
But this is going to be up probably tomorrow, and that's fine. I'm not going to show you how to do none of this. I'm just reading this so you guys can understand that. Okay, don't misread it. Don't start thinking. So when you start doing three is a little bit more intuitive than the other two. And this is the output, real quick. This is the output that they want you to have. So pay attention to this output. Notice how this output looks. It says candidate name, and then you want to have the question. I think the autograder don't accept these parentheses behind the one, but I don't remember correctly, but if you have an error, it may be because of these parentheses, because this output may not be matching what they have as the running test. But they might have fixed it, this cohort. But look, pay attention how this is written. You want every time you ask the question, you want your answer and then the correct answer. And then it goes all the way down to the fifth one. Like over here, when we ran it, let me move. When we ran it, let me show you. Let me see if it's going to run without breaking. Because I got that if statement in there. Let me see if it's going to run. Yeah, let me take these if statements, because I want you to see this. And this was just demonstration that I was showing you that. So let me run. And I must got a council log still in there, but we'll look past that. So you see how each question is going back to back like that? We don't want you to do that over here. We want you to ask the question, give your answer and the correct answer, then it goes to the next question. So you got to write this to where it looks just like this. And at the bottom, you're going to have this council log with a template string literal that's going to be pulling in these variables that tells you how many you got right out of how many that was possible. And you see this response correct. You may use response or result. You're going to need another variable inside this section.
Okay.
So here's the formula right here to calculate the code. The number of correct answers and the number of quiz questions. You want to divide that. This is the formula right here. So we're kind of giving you a hint right here.
Okay.
All right, so pay attention to that.
The questions and answers out of the array in order to get them to...
You already have them there.
To print out like it is in this output?
Correct.
They need to come out of the...
Yeah, they're going to come out of this array up here that you declared, this empty array that you're going to put, that you pushed your answers into. And so you're going to compare the candidates' answers. So look at this right. Look at the output. You're going to ask the question. You're going to have the input. What was the first American woman in space? And then you're going to give your answer. When you hit enter, it's going to print out your answer, and then it's going to show you what the correct answer is. Now, remember something. Remember I said your acceptance criteria. It also told you to do this. You got to check for insensitive quality check. You got to make sure that if you put in lowercase or uppercase, it's still going to give you the correct answer. So remember that. So you gotta be thinking, what do you need that can convert to lowercase or to uppercase? What do you use to do that? You use what? Somebody tell me.
Uppercase, lowercase method.
There you go. You're going to use one of those methods, but you got to know where to put it.
And how to, because doesn't that just convert it all to uppercase or all to lowercase?
Yes.
You need it to be just accepting any?
You want it to convert it. So whenever you ask the question, you want that answer to be able to be converted. Or when I give my answer, it should be able to accept whether it's capital or lowercase. So you're going to have to convert it somewhere. You're going to have to use the conversion somewhere to make sure that whatever answer I input is going to match. I'm going to be a correct answer. As long as I say Sally Rye, it doesn't matter if S is lowercase and L is capital letter. It's going to still say it's the correct answer. That makes sense?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody have any questions? I just want to kind of point out a few things to y'all while y'all go over this. And make sure y'all read this pretty closely. You got a week. Well, really, you got to the next Monday. I'm going to go ahead and do a review next Saturday. And we're going to go over part 3 because you got to have it turned in by Monday. Not this Monday, but the next following Monday.
So that's 22nd, right? Next Saturday?
No, next Saturday we'll do Uh, let me say what time it is, because I know my son has a Boy Scouts a Pinewood Derby. I think that's next week. Where I go to my son's Boy Scout Pinewood Derby. So I got to see what time that is. If it's like in the afternoon, we'll be still at 8 o'clock. But if it's early in the morning, it'll be later on that afternoon. But I'll let y'all know next week.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Because y'all been with me now. Y'all been hanging in there.
I think I'm confused on how to get from all the answers being, like, all the correct answers being in one line, and all the candidate answers being on one line, all the correct answers, from that to where it's in these blocks of question one, answer correct.
Okay, so we're going to make this dynamic. You're still going to loop over this, but you got to, that's why I say you're going to need an extra variable to store your results in. You need to call it results. You can call it response. And you're going to set it up in this format. So you know you're going to need to be able to console log this. So after you loop through it, you're going to loop through the questions. And your questions is going to have the answers. Those answers are going to be stored in a variable that's called results or a response or something. And then you're going to want that printed to the console, and it's going to do it each question. Just like how I was showing y'all earlier, how y'all iterated over the questions, and I showed you the index with console.log. They show you the index in between each one, right?
Yeah.
You got to think like that. That's what I want you to think. That same way I showed you how to do that. That's why I was showing y'all that earlier. So when you get down to this part, you understand how you're going to write this to the console to look like this. All right. And then at the bottom, this is your console log that's going to show everything else. And you see, we show, it's going to give the percentage. It's going to get how many you got right out of how many possible answers. And then you got your statement right here, response is correct. And then it's going to let you know what the status is. If the status was pass or fail. So you're going to be using a template literal, and you're going to be passing in a variable down there to show pass, because this is dynamic. All right. Any questions?
No.
All right. Everybody's cool? We good?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Y'all sure? Y'all sure y'all ready? Y'all positive y'all ready? Y'all positive?